please take a seat. We're going to start the meeting shortly. I'm going to ask the town clerk to take the roll call.
David Becker. Here. Michael Hurley. Jane Lipp. Here. Gaylord Meyer. Here. Eric Sunman. Pete Ambrose. Here. Amy Jennings. Here. John Matola. Here. Jeff Steele.
Here.
Keith Varian. Here. Ed Bateson. Here. Tom Conley. Here.
Oh, yeah.
Barron. Dave McKenzie. Mary McCullough. Heather Dean. Present.
Okay.
Joe DiMartino. Here. Art Hug. Here. Amy Mezoff. Here. Joe Palmer. Here. Matt Ambrose. Josh Garskoff. Here. Chris McAleese. Here. Ruth Smay. Here. Ann Stamler. Here. Chris Brogan. Here. Lenora Campbell. Here. Julie Gottlieb. Sheila Marion. Here. Jay Wolk. Here. Jen Hochberg. Here. Kevin Hopkins. Here. Eric Newman. Here. Mark Patton. Here. Al Schwartz. Kathy Braun. Here. Dana Carey. Alan Marks. Here. Tom McCarthy. Here. Jeff Stopa. Here. Bill D'Amica. Here. Joe Fellner. Here. Ellen Jacob. Nick Mirabili. Here. Carol Pontrelli. Chuck Abercrombie. Here. Lee Hannum. Here. Ken Lee. Ken Lee. Thank you. Bruce Ryan. Here. Carol Way.
Just going to ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please stay standing for a moment of silence, and also please keep in your thoughts the family of RTM Representative Tom McCarthy, whose father, Tom McCarthy Sr., passed away last week. I was told he was in World War II and served in Guam on the B-29 bomb squad, among many other amazing events in his life. Thank you. Before we get started, just a sort of quick announcement on some budget-related issues. The April 22nd RTM meeting is the time when we're going to allow the public to speak and address the budget. This, of course, is an opportunity for the public to make comments, not ask questions, but to make comments, and I'll probably have some timed allotment for them to make their comments. But that'll be at the April 22nd meeting, because the public will not be speaking at the May 6th final budget meeting. So I want to make that clear, and we certainly welcome anyone to speak on the budget. As of now, there are no committee meetings in April due to the April break and the short time frame from April 1st to April 22nd to get all our business done. We're not going to be having committee meetings. We will, however, still set up some sort of budget hearing process, and I have dates of April 3rd and 4th, which is a Wednesday, Thursday, and then Monday and Wednesday, April 8th and 10th, as tentative budget hearing days. And the Board of Education, as of right now, is slated for Monday, April 8th. That's the one that is set in stone as much as it can be. And so these will be the 3 or 4 budget hearing meetings that we do for the whole body to be able to hear any department's budget. And I'm going to work on scheduling that over the coming days and week so we can get that done. But you can certainly pencil in those dates as tentative dates. Again, April 3rd, 4th, 8th, and 10th may actually end up being just 3 of those days, but I will get back to you about that. At this point, we're going to move on to, yes, Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Bateson, District 3. I'd like to make a motion to take the following items out of order, in this order. Go to item number 3, then item number 10, then item number 7.
So the motion is to go to item number 10, right? 3. You want to go to... 3, 10, then 7. Oh, after that. No, wait. Hold on a second.
Three, approval of the minutes. Then we would move on to the police contract. Then we would move on to the lease, correct?
Just want to make sure we were clear on that. Okay, the proposals are to take the motions out of order. So this is a motion to suspend the rules, take the items out of order, go to 3, 10, 7, and then 2, so we get the attorneys who can address those items first, because they are costing money. Do I have a second on that? Yes, Representative Ryan. We're going to need 2/3 vote on this, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So we'll go directly to item 3. To consider and act upon the minutes of the regular meeting held on February 25th, 2013. Are there any proposed amendments or revisions to the minutes from the body? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes? Representative Dean, second Representative Hochberg. We now have a vote on the minutes. All those in favor of the minutes from February 25th meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Representative Bateson. Excuse me one second. Okay, we're now going to go to item number 10. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the First Selectman. Resolved that a certain contract negotiated by and between the Town of Fairfield and Local Union Number 530, Connecticut Organization for Public Safety, COPS, concerning conditions of employment for a period commencing July 1st, 2010, and ending June 30th, 2013, be and hereby is ratified. This was an item referred to all standing committees. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Mottola, second Representative Garskoff. We're now going to go over committee votes. LNA, there were 7 members present. Representatives DiMartino, Steele, and Varian were absent. Representative Steele instead attended the Wednesday committee meetings but did not vote. The vote was 4 in favor and 3 abstentions. Representatives Bateson, Becker, and Braun abstained. Finance, there was no quorum, so no vote. The members present were Representatives Ambrose, Jacob, Marmion, Newman, and Dean. Public Works and Planning, no quorum. Only Representatives McAleese, Jennings, Mottola, Abercrombie, Hanneman, and Palmer were there, but the number went down to 5. Somebody escaped when it was time to vote, so no vote was taken. Public Health and Safety, 8 members were present. Representatives Fellner and Hugg were absent. The vote was all 8 in favor. Education and Recreation, 7 members were present. Representatives Marks, Mirabili, and Schwartz were absent. Vote was 6 in favor, 1 abstention. Representative Lipp. I'll now open up this item to the body, and I believe we have Attorney McHale here in case there are questions whatsoever. So I'm going to open up to the floor. Representative Ambrose. Yeah, Pat, come on up here.
Thank you.
Sure. Peter, do you want to? Yeah, go ahead. I just figured you're going to want Attorney McHale here.
Thank you. Peter Ambrose, District 2. I intend to vote in favor of this contract this evening. I do not wish to put at risk the benefits that we have gained in our recent negotiation by letting an arbitrator ultimately decide on the terms of this contract. Many town residents have asked if the RTM has any say in the negotiation of these labor contracts. Unfortunately, we have very little to say, because by charter, the union contracts are negotiated by the first selectman. So they come to us, and they've already been vetted. It's our function then to either pass them or to reject them. This police union contract has already been voted down on 2 prior contracts. They have recently approved, that is the police union, the contract before us. The terms of this contract tonight are more favorable to the town than the prior contracts. The contracts provide for a significantly smaller percentage in the increase of pay over the period of the contract, an increase by union members in the premium cost share for medical and dental insurance, and also changes it from a dollar amount to a percentage amount. The contract benefits the town regarding post-employment medical insurance for retirees. It provides for a more restrictive definition regarding dependents for the purpose of medical coverage. I commend Attorney McHale on his and the town on their efforts to change the direction in which our labor negotiations are headed. Both sides, the union and the town, acknowledge that the tide has changed and economic realities have promoted a shift in the taxpayers' direction. I want to commend the police union because I think they realistically approached this contract, and I think we owe them thankfulness for doing that. The immediate danger in turning this contract down will open a door for an arbitrator to reopen and validate terms that had previously been negotiated in a prior settlement. This contract will provide the town with a better foundation to work in negotiating the new contract with the police union, which will begin in approximately 3 months because this contract will expire in 3 months. Thank you.
Any comments or questions from the body? Yes, Representative Stamler.
Ann Stamler, District 5. I would just like to thank Representative Ambrose for his eloquent expression of the reasons for supporting this contract. I join him 100%. I would only add that I think that though we, the RTM, are not at the negotiating table, in recent memory, I believe that the contract negotiations are hearing what this body has said. And I think that many of us, Representative Ambrose certainly, I certainly, and pretty much everyone in this room has expressed opinions on where we would like these contracts to go. And I do see in this contract a reflection of listening to those opinions. So I support and ask you to support this contract.
Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Bateson, District 3. I had a question that I had submitted to the First Selectman concerning a statement by Attorney McHale at the Tuesday subcommittee, which stated, I assume you got the email about the statement you made about Avon Police Department being one of the only ones that has instituted a defined contribution plan. And since after that meeting, I had received a couple of emails indicating that there were other police departments in the area that do have that. I mean, the only ones I saw, and these are newspaper reports, I didn't look at their town minutes or anything, were Trumbull and Stratford. Do you have any comment on that, or is there any validity to that?
Well, I don't have any comment to it. The question that was asked of me, to the best of my recollection, is do I know of any other communities that have a 401A plan in a public safety environment where the 401A plan is a primary post-employment deferred compensation vehicle. And the only one I'm aware of and continue to be aware of is the town of Avon. There are 169 municipalities who are in negotiations at least every 3 years, and sometimes more frequently, who are constantly negotiating the terms of their contracts. And I didn't mean, and if I misled anyone by giving them an impression that I know what all 169 towns have, and Avon was the only one in the state that has a 401A plan, I apologize, because that wasn't my intent. Avon is a town that I've represented Farmington and Simsbury, who are very close, and so for comparison purposes, I'm familiar with Avon. But, sir, I'm not, I didn't mean to convey that
No,
it's
that's
the
fine.
only one in the state
It seems
that
like
has a
you
401A.
clarified it, and also, too, I picked up on the word you're using as primary. If we, in the town of Fairfield, let's say we were doing another contract, and we switched newly hired employees of the police department into a defined contribution plan, I would not call that our primary motive of retirement funding until over 50% of the police force became enrolled in that plan. Is that the way you're interpreting primary?
Well, no, I mean, I don't know of anyone else other than Avon that has a 401A plan for public safety as an offering. The fire union here has a 401A plan as an offering, but I'm told that there is not one firefighter who has decided to elect a 401A plan. The
Gotcha.
401A plan was bargained here back in 2011, and you all could have a 401A plan in lieu of the reduced defined benefit plan that we negotiated on February 25th, 2013, if you want to pay approximately 5.6% more towards that pensionable cost in order to have that plan. So a 401A plan is certainly an option. The issue for the town of Fairfield became an issue of cost. What we
Understood.
shouldn't assume is that in all cases, a 401A plan is going to save us money as contrasted with a defined benefit pension plan, as we learned in our town here from looking at the cost of going from a defined benefit plan to a 401A plan. And the reason for that is we've spoken at some length, and I'm happy to speak with as much additional length as you all like, is because of the Social Security implications. Your policemen and your firemen are exempt from Social Security benefits because of the fact that you have a defined benefit pension plan that provides equivalent benefits to Social Security. If your benefits provide equivalent benefits to Social Security, then you're exempt from Social Security, and you don't need to contribute, you, meaning the taxpayer, need not contribute 6.2% of total wages to the Social Security fund, nor do your police officers, or as the case may be, your firemen, need to contribute 6.2% of their income towards the Social Security fund. By the same token, neither of those groups, as a result of their employment with the town of Fairfield, receive Social Security benefits as a result of their service to the town.
On Tuesday night, when you laid out this argument, I found the argument you made with your dollars attached to it very convincing. I am of the opinion, when it came to union negotiations, I'm a fan of the defined contribution plan in the 401A. And when I saw this contract presented without it, it caused me some concern. Your argument Tuesday night before our committee was very effective and very compelling. As it applies to this contract, being that it's almost expired, I get where you're going. I get your recommendation. I guess I want to go to the first selectman. When this contract gets approved, it seems like we're going right into negotiations again. When this item was presented to the committee, I picked up on a sentiment that it appears that going forward, we're going to be treating public safety unions differently because of this Social Security provision. Is this something you intend to, going forward, is the 401A defined contribution not an option now for public safety, or going forward, is that something you will be discussing?
I think the Social Security component is one of the considerations that we have to look at as we do the economic analysis throughout all of this. in terms of what we're doing going forward, we're going to explore all the options in terms of coming up with an option that makes sense to our employees, but also makes sense to the town on a cost basis. We know we're already in some situations that make it difficult going forward on the town in terms of our long-term projections, and we've seen what that's taken place. In terms of specific components, I would prefer not to discuss negotiating strategy in a public session. However, to help address that, I have talked to the leadership on both sides of the aisle about setting up a negotiating committee to have that type of discussion at the start of future contract negotiations, not only for police and fire, but for the other unions in town.
I understand your hesitancy not to talk about what you want to do in the future, and I can respect that from a negotiating point of view. I understand the contract that's before us. I understand the timing that's involved. I am concerned that I am now endorsing a different treatment between pension systems, between employees, and that's something that personally I'm having a problem reconciling myself. I understand it from a dollar point of view, what you're getting at. I really think from a negotiating point of view, we have to get on the same page about where we're going forward and what you continue to, have the unions address. Thank you.
Any other comments? Representative Braun?
Kathy Braun, District 8. Can you indicate again, Attorney McHale, what is the salary increase? I thought it was 5.5%, now I think it's 5.75% over the 3-year period. It was 0% the first year, then 2%, then something else, which I couldn't figure out.
In the first year of the contract, the settlement that was reached with the police union yielded a wage freeze in terms of a general wage increase. So for 10-11, their rates will stay the same. In year 2, rates will increase by 2%. That's the 2011-2012 year. In year 3, the 12-13 year, the year we're in today, fiscal year, rates will increase by 2.75%. And on the last day of this year, this fiscal year, the day before the contract expires, rates will increase by 0.75%.
And the purpose for the 0.75 is what?
Well, there's no purpose for anything other than it's a compromise that was reached in order to avoid a significantly higher 3-year wage increase of 7.25.
I understand that. So presumably the 0.75 on the last day is, assuming it takes some time for the new contract to go into effect, that we're going to be starting to negotiate now, is that?
In fairness, there's no purpose to any
Okay.
particular component. From the town's perspective, it's the only component, as we sit here almost 3 years after the last contract expired, it's the only component that doesn't have retroactive effect. So there isn't retroactive pay associated with it. But it's an overall economic package. There were a number of agreements that the police union came to the table and were willing to make that deal with economics. One of your members said it probably more eloquently than I could in terms of the different advantages that the police union were willing to acknowledge in a difficult economy. But wages tend to be a compromise, along with medical insurance, premium contributions, along with post-employment medical insurance, along with defined benefit pensions, and it's an overall economic package. There was no real point or purpose to why.
Okay, it's just a negotiation. So
Correct.
I'm going to support this for the same reason Representative Ambrose has, although I am troubled. And one of the main reasons I'm supporting it is I want to have a clean slate going into the next negotiations. But I just want to signal to you, I don't think I can support basically what looks like a 5.5 or 5.75% wage increase next time around. I think that's way above cost of living increases. I don't think we can afford it, and I have the same issues that Representative Bateson had. So I just want to signal to you, I know you can't talk to us about negotiations, but it's going to be really a tough sell if we have to do this again. So I'm thankful, I will be thankful if we can move forward with a clean slate and go into the next negotiations a little bit stronger. Thank you.
Representative Palmer?
Joe Palmer, District 4. Attorney McHale, do you, we talked briefly in committee meetings about the differences that public safety employees have in terms of their unions with the Social Security dynamic. And can you just explain how an arbitrator would view that in comparison with, let's say, a town employee's overall compensation package? So, in essentially, if an arbitrator were looking at, different units and saw that, we did one thing, agreed to one thing for public safety employees, would they look at that a little bit differently because of that Social Security dynamic?
I think the answer is certainly yes. The reality, this was a simple math problem with regard to this unit. All other town employees are eligible for Social Security benefits, in addition to their other defined benefit plan or 401A plan, depending on which they participate in. Not all, even public safety units in the state, are exempt from Social Security. It depends on the richness or the level of the benefit and whether at the appropriate time, years before I started practicing law, the town elected to opt out of Social Security. Here, the reason this makes sense not to pursue the 401A plan, as was originally bargained in April of 2011, is because to implement the 401A plan as bargained will cost over 5% more of pensionable payroll. Pensionable payroll is base pay plus longevity. Overtime, other compensation is not included in your town based on the terms of the plans bargained. It will cost over 5% more of that money to participate in the 401A plan that was bargained in April 2011 than it would cost to simply have newly hired police officers stay in the defined benefit pension plan with the 80% maximum and the up to 3% COLA that is what the existing employees get. As a result of the compromise that I applaud the police union and Lieutenant Keith Broderick, their president, for having reached, and the town's negotiating committee, the defined benefit pension plan for those employees will be changed so that the maximum benefit will be a more modest, although still a generous, 70% of pensionable payroll, and the COLA will have a maximum of 2%. That will save the town 3.7% of pensionable payroll long-term towards the cost of funding this post-employment benefit. Saving 3.7% of pensionable payroll as opposed to contributing an additional 5.8 by going to the 401A plan with the 8% contribution the town was going to make plus the Social Security costs plus the disability costs, from an arbitrator's standpoint, makes only economic sense. And frankly, to present this to an arbitrator and to be insisting on the 401A plan that we bargained back in 2011 would have caused us to look foolish unless I could articulate a reason for doing it other than perceived cost savings. And since I've been advised, I wasn't fortunate enough to be representing your town in 2011 when this was bargained, the goal, as it has been for all of the union negotiations, now there are 7 of them, and we've been through now 6. The goal has been to find a deferred compensation vehicle that doesn't cost as much as our defined benefit pension plan. Well, a 401A may be that plan, but the one we bargained in April 2011 did not accomplish that. In fact, it had the opposite result. And so the answer to your question is, it's very easy to explain to an arbitrator why, under these circumstances, the town bargained, and if you accept our recommendation, the legislative body approved a different change than a 401A plan for our police officers.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we'll go to Representative Mottola.
John Matola, District 2. I want to thank the police union for negotiating this contract. I think it's fair for both sides. And I really want to put something in perspective here. It was said that over the term of this contract it's a 5.5% increase, but it's a 4-year contract, so you're talking about a 1.3% increase per year. So you have to look at it that way. And it's not a 5.5% per year increase for 4 years. It's a 1.3 and change over a 4-year period. That's a fair deal. It is a fair deal. And again, I want to thank the First Selectman and the police union for negotiating this contract. I think it's fair for all parties. Thank you.
Representative Stamler?
Attorney McHale, you have answered this question multiple times, so forgive me for asking it again, but I couldn't get the numbers straight. The cost of the 401A, were we to have agreed to that, would be Social Security, employer match, disability. Can you just give me the numbers of each, which percentage of each?
Yes. Let me take it in each component, okay? And the Social Security is a little tricky for the following reason. We have to convert what the Social Security pension is, the Social Security contribution is, to the equivalent percentage of Fairfield pensionable payroll. As I've said, Fairfield's pensionable payroll includes base pay plus longevity. That is a smaller number than total compensation. Social Security benefits are paid on all compensation, 6.2% of total compensation. According to the actuary, the town engages 6.2% of total payroll for the police union is the equivalent of 9.7% of pensionable payroll, as we discussed the cost of the pension plan. So Social Security, to go to participate in the Social Security fund for the first time for new hires, would cost 9.7% of pensionable payroll. So that's the number we start with. We then add to that what the actuary estimated the cost of disability insurance. The deal that the town struck in April 2011 said that we would provide disability insurance at the rate of 66% of pay for the first 10 years of service, and then at the rate of 40% of pay for years of service after. Now, the actuary also made clear it's very difficult to buy disability insurance for public safety employees for their careers. But assuming you could buy it, a conservative estimate, according to the actuarial report, was that would cost 2.8% of pensionable payroll to fund the disability component. And then finally, the town contribution towards the 401A. That number was 8%. Okay? So 9.7 plus 2.8 plus 8.0 is 20.5. As you all see from the actuarial report that costed out the settlement that was reached, if we had done nothing in this town with our pension, and we just left it alone, and we said current employees and new hires stay on it, the cost to the town of that pension is 14.9% of pensionable payroll. So the difference between 14.9% and 20.5% is 5.6% additional cost.
Very clear, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members?
I'm sorry, Jeff.
Representative Lipp? It was 2.5, what was the number? 2 point,
It was 5.6% higher.
right, no, you had the 8%, you had the 9.7.
Jay Lipp, RTM District 1. I want to thank the police union and the attorney for negotiating the contract. I see that we went from savings of 1.75% from the previous contract or previous negotiated contract that wasn't voted on to what we have. What's the cost savings to our, to the town with the police union's concessions to drop down that 1.75%? With the talk of the current budget, everybody's concerned, and even though it is really a 3-year contract, not a 4-year contract, 3 years is almost 2% per year, and most citizens in the town aren't seeing that. So just what savings are we seeing? I want to make sure that gets in our minutes.
Well, I have a hard time telling you there's savings from wage increases, because
Right.
the way I do math, I
Well,
don't see savings.
But if we didn't negotiate this settlement, what would the difference be between what we previously negotiated and this final settlement?
The non-compounded cost of one settlement versus the other is 7.25 versus 5.5. So 1.75% of payroll.
Right. And what is a rough payroll for the police department during that 3-year time period?
Ms.
So it's, so 9 million plus per year, so we're looking at 20,000 per year roughly, no, sorry. Yeah, so, okay, so it's a pretty considerable savings to the town. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Representative Patton.
Mark Patton, District 7. I continue to be astounded and more impressed by Attorney McHale every time that he comes forth and gives us negotiations that were settled on a new contract. I commend the leadership of the town for finding and hiring Attorney McHale because I think, you know, this is the start. None of these contracts have been perfect, but they're by far and wide, you know, have given us, you know, significant savings that we, you know, the town hasn't experienced before in contract negotiations. I fully support this contract. It's as Representative Ambrose has stated, it's point for point, you know, it's better for the town, you know, than the one the police union rejected in April of 2011. Yes, do we need to be tougher in negotiations going forward? And you know, we hope there will be, you know, other concessions and things will come more in line with the, you know, the economy and the state of how, you know, everyday citizens, you know, live and the raises that we do or do not get. But that's in the future. This contract is, you know, for now. And again, it's not perfect, but it's a great step in the right direction. Thank you.
Any other members? I waited too long. Representative Ryan.
Hi, Bruce Ryan, District 10. Thank you for your work, Attorney McHale. I have one question about, you know, you calculated a number of the present pension plan costing the town 14%, and that a 401A plan would cost us 20%. Those are today's numbers, correct? If we were to just change everybody into a 401A plan, correct?
That's correct.
Now, what is the purpose of even considering doing this? My understanding is that what we're trying to avoid is the liability 20 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 30 years now, of having to make an annuity payment in terms of a pension to all these people. A 401A plan would ostensibly eradicate that. We wouldn't have that liability. That's where we're on the road to perdition. And we need to stop that. That's the problem with, and why everybody's brought this up, why this has been changed in corporate America. It may cost us more today, but in the long run, we're going to save a lot of money because their liability won't be there. And granted, I'm not an actuarial expert, but if you were to bring in an insurance executive and say, okay, we have a universe of, and Aon was here, I saw at the Board of Ed meetings talking about how the health care plans and so on were so expensive to the town relative to corporate. if, I don't know how many people there are in the police department. Let's just say there's 200, 500?
105.
100. Those 100 people, let's just say was capped for, at 100 for the next 10 or 15 years. Those 100 people are going to have a pension, let's say they retire at, I don't know, 55 years old, and their life expectancy is 85. So for 30 years, the town is going to be obligated to make these pensions. If the new people coming in were to opt into a 401k or be forced to, when they retired at age 55, there would be no liability. That would then be funded by their contribution and the town's extra 6%, as you point out today, being compounded over the life that they're in the police department. There wouldn't be this payout every month, year, for the next untold number of years, but it's a long number. People work today for 20 and 30 years in these pension programs, and then they retire living a longer life, getting benefits than they actually worked. That doesn't make sense, and that's where the problem comes in. There's been no talk about there's been no talk about where's that money come. It's going to come from the taxpayer if we continue down this path of a defined benefit plan. Am I off base here? I don't think so.
The taxpayer is going to fund whatever portion of the deferred compensation plan is in existence that the town and the legislative body approves. I am not skilled at telling you what it costs to fund a defined benefit plan without a Social Security component, which is what we have now, versus a 401A plan with a Social Security component. But what I've been educated to is that under the circumstances here, if you fund what the liability is, and all we can do is assume current assumptions, it will cost more to fund a 401A plan over the term of a police officer's employment as contrasted, considering what was bargained in April 2011 versus continuing to fund a defined benefit pension plan with the reductions that were negotiated with the police union for new hires and staying on a defined benefit plan. It costs less by quite a lot. There are payouts. The vehicles are different. They're designed differently. If you fund them in accordance with the actuarial recommendations, then, as your plan is, it's funded. I mean, it has been funded in excess of 100% of recommended actuarial funding. But as long as you do that and you make contributions yearly, you will fund your pension appropriately. Mm-hmm. What we're dealing with simply today is whether today to approve a modification of the defined benefit plan that costs 5.6% less, or whether we should scrap that and say we're going to go to a 401A plan because even though we're told it's going to cost us 5.6% more as compared to the other, we believe long-term it's going to be better for the town. I have no evidence to support that. Certainly, sir, if I did, I would share that.
Well, there's the only point I'm trying to make here. It's easy to say, and I'm sure I would agree too, that it's why spend 20% today when I can spend 14% and get the job done. The point is down the road, the town will have a liability that it doesn't have if somebody walks with a 401k plan and takes that funds itself. In other words, when somebody retires, they have a pot of money that's going to fund their retirement. You're saying that this already does do that by putting the money in now, it's going to be there. That's proved fallacious in the past and seems to be getting worse. And that's.
I'm not here today to articulate the merits of a defined benefit pension plan versus a defined contribution plan. Mm-hmm. There are inherent investment risks that businesses and municipal corporations take on when they agree to have a defined benefit pension plan. There is no doubt about that. History has shown that as markets fluctuate, the assumptions that we make when we structure these benefits as to returns can be wildly misplaced.
Yeah.
And that's a policy judgment that I haven't been asked to be involved in up until now, and frankly don't expect to be involved in. But that certainly is a fair point and a question for a member of a legislative body.
Thank you.
Representative Hurley?
Good evening. I'm Michael Hurley, District 1. From a financial perspective, I fully support this contract for the reasons which Peter Ambrose laid out. I think there's another element here, though, that we need to keep in mind. I'm on public health and safety, and I have been for, I guess it's my 4th year. And we've held, I guess I've probably organized 7 neighborhood watch meetings for my neighborhood. We did a committee tour on public health and safety of the police department. We did a full RTM tour of the police department. Our committee did a review of the town's emergency response plan. I've gone on patrol with the officers, and it's a very tough job. And we're dealing with public safety here, and I think no matter which way, the contract ultimately went, that they would still do an outstanding job. But I think we also need to send them, a message. It's a fair contract, and I think that, we should all support it. Thank you.
Did Representative Ambrose, did you have your hand up? No, okay. I just want to make sure any other members here. Yes. Selectman McCarthy Vahey. Okay. You can go here if you want.
Hi, Kristen McCarthy Vahey, formerly District 6 Selectman. I'd like to stand up here also in support of this contract, and I would like to begin by thanking the members of our police department and the union. I think also Attorney McHale and the First Selectman have worked together with them to negotiate a fair contract for the town. And I think, Representative Hurley well said in terms of your comments with that. We continue to have here a conversation about defined benefits versus defined contributions. As a member of this body, I participated in those, and I'm here now as an ex officio member. And there are a lot of worthwhile conversations to be had regarding that matter. One thing that I have continually talked about and asked about is that we look at the actual math and the actual data. We had a presentation here a number of months ago from our Chief Fiscal Officer relating to some of that. And if I recall correctly, actually, some of his comments talked about combined plans. So I think that as we continue forward with contracts that we need to look at that. I also would like to just philosophically talk about what Representative Ryan said, which I think is a reality. When we look at defined benefits, we look at long-term liabilities. We look at long-term commitments. And I also think we need to look at the kind of commitments that our officers make to us and that those in public safety make to us in terms of the job that they do. And we need to weigh all of those things. We certainly owe it to the taxpayers, to all the citizens of this town, to negotiate fair contracts, which I think this is. The last point that I'd like to make is that I think we spend a lot of time talking about this defined benefit, defined contribution issue. And I really think that the focus of our conversation needs to shift more into healthcare. I think all of us here, as we look at contracts, as we look at the budget, certainly as we look at all kinds of legislation that impacts us, this is another issue that we need to be talking about as well. So perhaps even more so than the issue of defined benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Dean.
Representative Dean, District 4. I'd like to echo Kristen McCarthy Vahey's sentiments completely and fully. And I'd also like to add that I'd like to thank the police union, thank First Selectman Tetro and Attorney McHale for really for the first time in the 4 terms that I've served, giving us copious information in a timely manner and taking the time in a very respectful way to explain things in great detail. And that takes a lot of fortitude, so thank you. I'll be supporting this contract.
Thank you. Any other members? Okay, hearing none. I'll go to the public on this item. Are there any members of the public? Chief McNamara.
Thank you. Just a few notes that I have regarding the contract. Obviously, I may be a little biased, but just kind of hear me out for 1 second. Was it the bias part or the 1 second part? Okay. All right, hear me out for 3 minutes. I urge you to ratify and approve the current police contract before you. For almost 3 years now, the men and women of the Fairfield Police Department have lived with a level of uncertainty. Some members in the twilight of their careers wonder what their future benefits will look like after spending their entire career dedicated to providing public service to the town of Fairfield. Some of our newer officers in the department wonder whether or not they should look for employment elsewhere, and this is not a good thing. The lifeline of any police department is the longevity of its members. We need officers who gather training and experience here and stay here. As a result of this uncertainty, most at one point or another wonder if this community supports their efforts to provide public safety. You would think that with all this uncertainty that you would see a decline in effort, a decline in dedication, or a decline in results. The last 3 years have shown us that the answer to that. These officers have done just the opposite, and I think you will all agree to that. They have answered the call. When this town has needed them, they were there, and frankly, they are here every day waiting for the time when a member of this community needs them, and they respond. They care about this community and its well-being. They care about your safety, and they understand their role in keeping this community safe. They need to know that you care about them. The members of the Fairfield Police Department do not view this community and the people they serve as abstract numbers. They view each of them as people and families, each with different needs, and they try to provide that individual service to each call for service. And they take pride in their work. And they need you to do the same. They don't look at them in an abstract way, just as town employees in a uniform. They're people too, trying the best they can to provide that public safety for all of you. These are the current members of the Fairfield Police Department. They've continued the mission of the Fairfield Police Department and have risen up to answer the calls in recent years under what some would consider some very historic events in this town and surrounding towns. This current contract proposal also shows that these current members understand that some concessions must be made. That what they have and will receive for their years of service may not be what new employees receive. This contract has concessions in it, concessions for current members, and concessions for future employees who will know when they were hired, this is what you're entitled to for providing public safety in the town of Fairfield. 3 years without a contract leads to quite a bit of distraction in a police department, and it really needs to be ratified so we can move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Will you just state your name and address, please?
Hi, Steve Krawczyk, 8 Candlewood Road, Fairfield, Connecticut. I'm also the owner of DoingItLocal.com, which is a breaking news website leading the area in breaking news, so that's why you don't see me often unless there's breaking news in an RTM meeting. I want to thank all of you for your dedication to the town and what you do with your time and efforts to look out for the benefit of the town. But there's also another group, and that's our Fairfield Police Department. I see firsthand what they do day in and day out, and I know what they have to go through. I'm contacting you to please have you get behind their contract and to, give what they need. Our town has proven itself to be anti-union with the dragging on of the nurses' contract, the firemen's contract, and, now theirs is 3 years. The police have served under 2 hurricanes and a blizzard without a contract. That's just unreal. A couple weeks ago, 5 officers were ordered to move towards a wooded area where a shot was fired during a standoff. They moved without hesitation. Why do we keep the police union waiting, Fairfield? If your sticking point is with the contract is with healthcare, ask yourself what town employee should have the very best healthcare. We rely on our police and fire department's strength and health to do their job. If you want to cut healthcare, please lead by example and start with the top elected officials and work your way down. I am very disheartened with our town leaders did not lead in the passing of this contract. I've never contacted you in the past with any issue, so this is obviously very important to my family and me. I'm not affiliated with the police or the union at all. I just want what is right for our first responders. Put your faith in them. You put your faith in Bernie Madoff, and we're lucky to get our money back. The events in Sandy Hook was another example of how important a good police department is. Again, this town's past actions are proof that Fairfield is anti-union. Tonight, let your discussions and vote be otherwise and pass this contract before you, and I thank you.
Any other members of the public? Okay, we're going to go back to the body. Any other members of the body wish to make a comment? Okay. We are going to move to a vote. We're just going to do a roll call vote, please. So, again, all those who are in favor of the contract, just say yes, or yes.
David Becker? Yes. Michael Hurley?
Yes.
Jay Lip?
Abstain.
Gaylord Meyer? Pete Ambrose?
Yes.
Amy Jennings? Yes. John Matola? Yes. Jeff Steele?
Yes.
Keith Varian? Yes. Ed Bateson? Tom Conley? I didn't hear Tom.
Yes.
Thank you. Hank Ferentz? Yes. Mary McCullough? Yes. Heather Dean? Yes. Joe DiMartino?
Yes.
Art Hug?
Yes.
Amy Mezoff? Yes. Joe Palmer?
Yes.
Matt Ambrose?
Yes.
Josh Garskoff?
Yes.
Chris McAleese?
Yes.
Ruth Smay?
Yes.
Ann Stamler?
Yes.
Chris Brogan?
Yes.
Lenora Campbell?
Yes.
Julie Gottlieb?
Yes.
Sheila Marmion?
Yes.
Jay Wolf?
Yes.
Jen Hochberg?
Yes.
Kevin Hopkins?
Yes.
Eric Newman?
Yes.
Mark Patton?
Yes.
Hal Schwartz?
Yes.
Kathy Braun? Alan Marks?
Yes.
Tom McCarthy? Jeff Stopa?
Yes.
Bill D'Amica?
Yes.
Joe Fellner?
Yes.
Nick Marably?
Yes.
Carol Pontrelli?
Yes.
Chuck Abercrombie?
Yes.
Lee Hannum?
Yes.
Ken Lee?
Yes.
Bruce Ryan?
No.
Carol Way?
Yes.
Joe DiMartino?
No.
Thank you. The contract passes 41-3 with 2 abstentions. Thanks again to Mr. McHale for attending and answering questions tonight, and congratulations to the police officers here, and thank you for all your work. Okay, jumping around here again, we're going back to item number 7. Is that right? Got that right, okay. Item number 7, to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that the lease amendment between the Town of Fairfield and Sprint Spectrum Realty Company, L.P., be and hereby is approved, and further resolved that First Selectman Michael Tetreault be and hereby is authorized to execute the lease amendment and related documents. This item was referred to all standing committees. May I have a motion to approve this item? Representative Bateson, a second. Representative Ambrose. We'll now go over committee votes. L&A, vote was all 7. Abstained. Finance, no quorum, no vote. Public Works and Planning, no quorum, no vote. Public Health and Safety, vote was all 8 in favor. Education and Recreation, vote was all 7 in favor. I'll now open up this item to the body. We also have Attorney Stanton Lesser here to address any questions. So are there any questions on the lease? We got to have one question for Attorney Lesser. He stayed here. Okay. Hearing none, I'll go to the public. Any members of the public have any comments on the lease? Okay. We're going to go to a voice vote on item number 7. And all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The item passes. Thank you. Thank you, Stan. So I guess, Ed, we're jumping back to item number 2. Is that right? Yeah. Just want to double check here. Excuse me. Okay. Next item is number 2, to hear an update from the RTM Redistricting Committee. As you all know, Connecticut state statute says that we need to decide on a redistricting plan by June 1st. It's mandated state statute, basically for the RTM to adopt a reapportionment plan for the legislative body. And I felt it was important that this body receive an update on the work of the Redistricting Ordinance Committee, as it has been meeting for the last 18 months. And instead of getting news from the press or hearsay or rumors or wherever else, I thought it was most important that we here get an update on what's going on, because the deadline is looming, and I'm very cognizant of that, and I think it's important we hear what's going on. So I'm asking Chairman of the committee, Hank Ferentz, Representative Ferentz, to come up to address sort of an update, and then if other members of the committee wish to add, they're welcome to. But we're not going to debate this. We're not going to look at 8 districts, 9 districts, 10. That's not what this is about. It's more where we stand on it. So I'll leave it up to you.
Thank you. Hank Ferentz, District 3. To date, the redistricting committee has had 18 meetings. I actually tried to have another one this past Saturday, but unfortunately, the 3 Democratic members had previous commitments. A quick reminder on what the history of the goings-on were. Originally, the Democrats presented a 10-district plan with 5 representatives in each district. The Republicans presented what we wanted, which was an 8-district plan with 4 representatives. The Democrats and the Republicans discussed the 4 representative option, and it was pretty clear that the Dems didn't want 4 representatives. They felt that 5 were a better number. So we compromised, and we basically went up to 5 members per district. At that point, we went back and forth between 8 and 5 and 10 and 5. Again, Democrats wanted 10 and 5, Republicans 8 and 5. And this went on for several meetings with very little movement. At that point, Mr. Mottola suggested offhand that maybe we should compromise on 9. So taking that to heart, I and several other of the Republicans went up to Hartford, which is where we get our district maps made, and we came back with a 9-district map for our next meeting. We presented that map to the Democrats, and their response was, "Why did you do that?" I thought that was a little disheartening. Anyway, we went back and forth and continued to discuss 9 or 10 districts. Now, I'm in my 8th year on the RTM. I've been the chairman of the Senior Tax Committee and the chairman of Public Health and Safety. And this assignment as chairman of this committee has been the most frustrating position that I've held. we just seem to be spinning our wheels. And I regret to inform you that this committee is, in my opinion, deadlocked. On Friday, we'll celebrate the anniversary of our very first meeting, the one-year anniversary. And we're not getting anywhere. As the moderator mentioned, we've got until June 1st to come up with some sort of a plan. And I don't see that we're going to be able to bring a proposal out of this committee that all the members will agree on. We're the only town in the state of Connecticut which is not redistricted. And again, as of June 1st, we're in violation of state statute. Folks, I'm going to need your help with this problem. We need to move this issue forward now. And I'm at a loss, quite frankly. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions, or is there another perspective on this from someone in the Representative Hopkins?
Kevin Hopkins, District 7. First of all, I'm a little disappointed that it wasn't until after 7 p.m. tonight that I was given information that this would be the format that we would be proceeding with tonight. You all saw redistricting on your call, on your warning, but how this would be done, whether it would be a question and answer for us, whether there would be other people allowed to debate, I didn't know that until tonight. So I'll try to do the best I can off the cuff. And that is just to address our perspective, which is that as far as 9 districts go, or as far as 4 members per district goes, there was at least one time when it was presented to the Republicans earlier on, and they rejected it. So it's not just us. Okay? There was at least one time prior to early on that the idea of 4 members per district was presented to the Republicans, and they rejected it. So it's not just us. It was only after we had been round and round on maps many, many times and looked at all the different options that we, the Democrats, made a position that we really felt that sticking with 10 districts, 5 members per district, was the way to go. We've looked at the maps left and right. We have entertained the idea of 8 districts where they were presented to us. I think we looked at them in good faith. We looked at the maps that were presented by the other side. We tried to come up with maps of our own as suggestions. We did the same thing with 9 maps. And we have very conscientiously looked at all the options from both sides. And after looking at them all, we really just don't think that there's any way that there's anything that is fair other than sticking with 10 districts. Once you start to enlarge the districts, you make a situation where you start to dilute representation, and it becomes a situation where it really starts to unfairly benefit the Republican side. And we are just not going to agree to something which is going to give that kind of a benefit. So I don't know what the answer is to this problem. Yes, we are at a standoff between 10 districts and 5, or 10 districts and 9. But basically, I just don't see any way that I can come to any kind of agreement on something that is going to unfairly disadvantage one political party in this system. And that's my position. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from that committee who would like to make an update? Representative Bateson.
Ed Bateson, District 3. I am new to the committee. I joined about a month ago. I hear Representative Ferentz, the frustration. I really thought that there could be some sort of compromise that could have been reached. That's one of the reasons I got involved in the committee. I kind of thought I understood the issue. The Democrats wanted 10 districts, 5 reps. We wanted 8 districts, 5 reps. I kind of thought the logical settling point was going to be 9 districts. It didn't come to pass. I was kind of upset when that happened at my first meeting. I don't see this moving out of the committee. And that concerns me for the simple fact that, now we do have a deadline coming up. What I have going through my mind is actually presenting something at the April RTM meeting, actually proposing a plan. And that's, I guess, what I was thinking is accomplishing that through just proposing a plan, which is what I see written in the charter. That's what I'm thinking of doing. That's,
So you're thinking of proposing a plan at the, next meeting, the April meeting?
April meeting.
And a plan, just a plan?
Yeah, a actual redistricting plan. Presenting it to the RTM. Does anyone want to,
let's just start with, are there any comments or questions on that? Representative Schwartz. Yeah.
Unfortunately, our town attorney's not here, but I don't believe by town charter that we can do that. Oh, is he still here? Oh, there you are. Okay. Doesn't the charter say that the plan has to come from the committee? By the committee. So an individual from the
Well, I
committee...
have the town charter right here, so. Attorney Lesser, can you come up?
You want him here or there?
Oh, it doesn't matter. This right here, this is fine right here. So the charter 2.6A, number 2, after completion of the census of the United States and after any reapportionment of the state General Assembly districts affecting the town, voting districts of the town shall be established by an ordinance proposed by a committee of the RTM comprised of equal number of members from each party, such that population deviation from the largest to the smallest voting district shall not exceed 10%. The redistricting ordinance adopted by the RTM shall provide for an equal number of members from each district and, to the extent practicable within the constraints of the charter and state General Assembly redistricting, shall provide for districts that are located in only one state General Assembly district. So that's how it reads. I've looked at this, and obviously there are different opinions, but I mean, one way to look at this is it's an ordinance proposed by a committee, not approved. It's not recommended. It's not voted on. It's proposed, and it's an ordinance. It's not the ordinance. So if this is what you want to do, I have no problem with it, but at the same time, I would welcome any other plan to be proposed too. Because, yep, point of order. Sure, that's, yeah.
With all due respect, Mr. Steele, but when you reiterated this, what you left out was that it says, voting districts shall be established by an ordinance.
I didn't leave it out.
Well, when shall is used in something like this, it's mandatory, so it has to be by an ordinance proposed. And you also, if the charter prescribes a way of doing something, that's the way you have to do it. I mean, case law supports that. So my opinion is that the ordinance is one that is proposed by the committee. And if you think about it, you have a committee comprised of equal members from both parties. The idea is to foster people working together and to do what's fair, so you don't let one party run roughshod over the other. So taking all that into consideration, my opinion would be that the only ordinance that can be passed is the one that is proposed by the redistricting committee. That doesn't mean that they have to pass it, but they can't modify it.
Mr. Moderator,
Wait, just say that again. It doesn't mean they have to pass it, they being the RTM.
Yeah, they could vote it down.
But why the word proposed? Why, I mean, I have questions on how, I mean, now we're in a process issue where we have to make some determination of what we're doing going forward, and Representative Bateson makes a proposal to put forward a plan. I then say, I welcome another plan.
Point of information.
And
Mr. Bateson is not the committee. He's one person. This is supposed to come from the committee.
Well, this is a plan proposed by the committee. It is a plan.
Actually,
It has been
yeah.
proposed by the committee.
No, there are
Hasn't been
plans that
approved
have
and
been
hasn't been
proposed
voted
in the
on.
committee.
It has been proposed.
Right.
It is a plan proposed.
Folks, I would like, what I'm getting at is an interpretation that would allow this process to move forward. I mean, there have been several plans proposed in the committee. This charter does not say they have to be recommended by the committee. It says proposed. These plans have been proposed in the committee. I don't see anything that prevents us or members of the committee from bringing them to the floor of the RTM.
So there's no tie, so going back, now hold on. There is no tiebreaker mechanism here. So in virtually every committee and body that exists, there's some sort of tie-breaking mechanism. For some reason, there is not one here. There isn't, and who knows why. But, so this could be perpetually in stalemate for the end of time. And yet, at the same time, we risk violating state statute. And I look at that as a fairly grave violation. And that's something I think this body has to think about, too. And certainly, as the moderator of this body, someone who needs to continue moving RTM business forward and not violate state statute, is something I have to think about. And I understand you can't violate the charter, but I'm not saying violating the charter. This is an interpretation of the charter. But we're clearly going to violate state statute. And what happens if we violate state statute? Then lawsuits can come against the town if that's the case. They could bring a lawsuit against the town. So isn't it, I mean, I feel to some degree it's my responsibility. It's responsibility of this body to prevent lawsuits from coming against this town. I mean, that's one angle I'm looking at this as.
But you can't violate the charter.
But we can violate state statute?
It's not necessarily violated.
Well, we would be. It's not necessarily, we would be. Anyways, that's where we stand. I'm not going to discuss 8, 9, 10, all that, but certainly if there are thoughts on this, questions, I'm sure there are many. I'll try to entertain a couple. Ed? With
No,
your vote? I mean, listen, nothing, this is just an intention that's mentioned here. It's my thought on this, and that's where it stands.
Yeah,
There's no vote tonight. There's nothing else.
Right. Just to follow up with you, Mr. Moderator, that would, I mean, I need a solution. I think we all need a solution as to how to move this issue forward. And this is one method that I see that might accomplish that.
Representative Stamler. Hal, you've been waiting. Go ahead. I mean, this, we're talking about.
A question, Mr. Moderator? I have a question and possibly a comment. The question is, can we have some elucidation of the state statute that imposes the deadline? I understand the state requirement that we redistrict so that no one district is more than 10% apart, so that the largest and smallest are not more than 10% apart.
That's according to the town charter, right? Yeah.
Okay, the town charter, but that's from a state issue, I believe. But
The
what is the
10%
state?
is the state. The 10% is the charter.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the state statute concerning, that gives us a deadline for completing this business?
Just reading it here, Section 9-169F, reapportionment required for certain municipal legislative bodies. And I'll just read the first line. Not later than June 1st in the year after the first regular General Assembly election last year, following a reapportionment of the General Assembly, each municipal legislative body whose members are elected wholly or partially on the basis of geographical division of the municipality, like Fairfield, shall adopt a reapportionment plan for such legislative body.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't know that. A thought for a direction of thinking. The issue of representation is fundamental to the Constitution, to this country. As you pointed out, Mr. Moderator, the current Constitution of this town meeting is actually less than 100 years old. Up to 1947, every member of the town was a member of the town meeting. Representation began that year, I believe, if I got the year right. And the number of people represented by every representative has grown from about 250 electors at that time to, I think, about 700 now, if you break it down, something like that. It's an issue of moment, how we represent our constituents. So my thinking is whether there is some format for bringing the question to a larger constituency than this body, where each of us is potentially vested in the outcome. We all could be perceived as vested in any maintenance or change to the current configuration of the representative town meeting. But there are people not on this body whom we represent, to whom it matters as much as, if not more than, us. So is there some way we could divide this process, achieve the immediate legislative necessity, which is conforming to our charter so that no two districts are more than 10% apart, largest and smallest. If it means budging a few lines, do it. But set in place as mandatory some forum in which the larger public can have an opportunity to give input on whether there should be a change in the number of districts, a change in the number of representatives. Neither of these are mandated by the charter or precluded by the charter. We can change the number of districts. We can change the number of representatives, not more than 56. But I think the discussion may need to take place in a larger forum. So that is my thinking on the subject.
My response is, I think that's great to get more involvement from the town, but we as a body, 50-person body, have taken over a year to go through it and digest it and analyze it, and we can't even come to an agreement. I can't imagine a town of 55,000 people are going to be able to do it. That's just my first reaction. Representative DiMartino?
Can I finish?
No,
So,
Representative Schwartz.
we still don't have an answer on my original question.
Which was?
We were debating, the town attorney said that the committee needs to vote on this. So I think are we not bound by the town attorney's interpretation of the town charter? Therefore, this has to come from the committee by a majority vote of the committee, if I understand everything correctly. The question I have to you as moderator of this body is, the chairman said he was deadlocked, the vice chairman said he was deadlocked. What are we going to do about it?
That's what I'm somewhat bringing out to all of you. And I'm very much inclined to get something done, because I don't want this RTM to be in violation also of the state statute, which
Yeah,
we
and
will
that's
be.
the last question I have, and I know we have both registrars here, is the boundaries with the lines drawn as they are at this moment, are we in violation? And I guess that would be the question for the registrars who are both here.
Are we 10% differential between the smallest and the largest currently? I think the issue is yes, that's why, but Matt Wagner, come on up.
Thank you.
That's all right. We came ready for a show. So right now, the difference between the largest and the smallest is about 13%. The larger issue, and actually it speaks to this question about minor adjustments versus major redrawings, is that the requirement that districts be contained within single state representative districts to the extent practicable. Right now, we have 10 RTM districts divided into 21 pieces by the way the state representative lines have been drawn. Having 11, mathematically, we should be able to divide, if we wanted to have 10 districts, have one and only one divided, with about 230 people split between one district and another. So that's sort of the larger issue, is accommodating the contained within state rep districts requirement.
Roger, did you want to say something? So, Hal, I don't know if that answers your question, but, okay. So there is the state statute, but it's also the other issues of getting it done by June 1st, to have them within state legislative boundaries. Okay. Representative DiMartino.
Joe DiMartino, District 4. Mr. Moderator, I just wanted to ask a question here. I think we're asking for an opinion from the town attorney, with all due respect, sir. It's obviously a biased opinion. You know, is there a way, that's my opinion.
Okay. All right, everyone, hold on.
My opinion.
Just hold on. All right, we're not going to do that.
All right, sorry.
Okay?
Sorry, Jeff.
It's a different opinion.
It's a different opinion. My interpretation of that is quite different. Now, so the only opinion we can go off of is the town attorney's opinion of his interpretation of those words there?
And that's his job, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Representative Lee.
Representative Lee, District 10. I think those of you that know me know that I am not a politician. I'm much too clear to be a politician. It's cost me dearly over my life, and I intend to continue that philosophy. I have a question, but I'd just like to also make a comment before the question is answered. I haven't had the privilege of attending those 18 meetings, so I don't really know what was going on. I've only been in this body for a year and a half. And as far as I understood it, the problem seemed to be that our districts were out of balance somehow. And I'm not really sure how we got to 8, 9, 7, 4, 12, or any other number of districts when what we needed to do was to balance the 10 districts that we already had. I'm just kind of confused where that idea ever came from. And there's been this notion that somehow there's obstructionism going on when I mean, to me this is just too confusing, and I don't understand why we're even having this discussion when all we needed to do was redraw a couple of boundaries. My comment is that we have two people in this room who are actually qualified to figure this out. One is a Republican, one is a Democrat, and they're both registrars. I don't think any of us really understand boundaries and all that other stuff. Certainly anybody looking at this from afar might suspect that perhaps there were some people leaning one way and some people leaning the other way, depending upon their persuasion. I wouldn't wonder if the two registrars sat down and came up with a plan that they could both agree that they didn't like, that maybe we wouldn't have something that's probably pretty fair.
Joe Palmer, District 4. Mr. Lee, it's a shame you didn't know more. You should have. Your caucus should have had more of an understanding of exactly what was happening and how things had progressed through here. Essentially, the Republicans came to the table in the redistricting process with an idea. A smaller body might be more efficient for as a body for the town. There's a ton of reasons, cost savings, and one other thing too. The state assembly lines were dramatically changed, and one impact was, look at District 4. District 4 got split into 6 different non-contiguous segments. So this was a major problem, and it has been a challenge just to even figure out how to draw the lines. So we've come up with a bunch of different ideas. We started out looking at, hey, okay, we'll look from anything from 13 to 8, and both the registrars provided us with plenty of information about how things would be impacted. But so we came and said, we think it would be a better idea to have a reduction in the size of the RTM, and it wasn't about politics. It was about making a more efficient body. We've had this discussion a zillion times, and so the politics of one party having more favor over the other, I just don't buy that argument. And by the way, that wasn't had nothing to do with our motivations. and though it seems to be, part of your the motivations on the other side. But at the end of the day, what we've done is we've came up with an 8-district plan that had 5 reps in each district. The Democrats came up with a 10-district plan with 5 reps. We hammered things out. We tried to, negotiate. A 9-district plan came together, and we both the Democrats and the Republicans, spent a lot of time to develop those plans, and so there was a glimmer of hope. So the thought is that why not break this deadlock with a 9-district plan, and move ahead. That's that I think is the most obvious thing to do here. This isn't about just drawing the lines to fix things. A 10-district plan doesn't have a polling location in one of the areas. A 10-district plan also makes it more difficult for people. It separates the polling locations in a way that actually makes it inconvenient. An 8-district plan is actually more convenient for voters. So that's just my thoughts. And again, this shouldn't be about a political argument.
Representative Patton.
I think Representative Palmer's missing Representative Lee's point, if I could clarify that for at least one moment. And that's there's no real reasons why would you change something, the old proverbial, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The notion that it can't be proven that an 8-district or a 4-member or a 15-member RTM would be more or less efficient. There's no way to do that. 40 people less efficient or more efficient than 50 people, you're splitting hairs over nothing. The notion that it's financially saves a lot of money, we've all heard the numbers crunched. The difference in dollars is peanuts. It's a few $1,000s, under $5,000 if what our registrars told us in previous meetings have said. I'm flabbergasted. The deadlock is ridiculous. On the tax relief committee, which is far more expansive and far-reaching dollar-wise than the redistricting plan. The Republicans had a majority over the Democrats, yet we worked together, we came up with a plan that was, made sense to both parties, and we worked and we did our jobs. If the committee is deadlocked and can't make a decision, maybe somebody should make a motion to disband it and reform another committee with different members. I mean, again, I just don't understand, being a politician, not being a politician, none of that matters. If you just leave it alone, redraw the lines, that's what the townspeople want. You've read the letters in the paper. It just doesn't make any sense to give people less representation. If we go to 8 members, it gives us, instead of each member representing roughly about 6,000 people, we've been told currently, that would make us have to represent 7,500, people. That's 1,500 people. Anybody, doing the door-to-door thing during campaign time, whether you do that or not, how many more houses is that? Certain parts of town have vast more land and people are more spread out. So, it doesn't make any sense that the parts of town that are more population-centric get less representation. It's not fair, it doesn't make any sense. Just leave it alone and redraw the lines.
Representative Dean.
Representative Dean, District 4. With all due respect, the Democrats are very much aware and involved with the discussions with regards to the redistricting committee. And I had addressed this in a letter to the editor early on when discussions were starting. And I'm a supporter of 10 districts, and primarily because really from the beginning our country has been established with proper representation. We've started the RTM with our representation in place. We've come to 10 districts with 5 representatives. If we were to knock that down, our numbers do go up. And it's not about canvassing and door knocking. It's about being able to connect with people throughout the year and finding out what they need and what they want. We can barely get that done now with as many as we have, and to make the districts even larger, I just think it's counterintuitive to what our purpose is, which is representing properly and effectively. I support 10 districts. I support 5 representatives because it's what we've been doing. It isn't broken. I'd like to see the lines redrawn a little bit so that we are compliant, but frankly, it's working. Thank you.
Representative, I'm going to go with just, Representative Basin. Yes, fine.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Bates in District 3. I like this conversation. This is what we should be talking about. That's why this ordinance belongs before the RTM. That's why I want to see this discussion happen in April. If you believe in the 10-district plan, propose it. Ask the moderator to put it on the agenda. I'll, with a couple other Republicans, propose a 9-district plan. I agree with this. Then we can have this debate. That's where this belongs, not in a committee that has a 3-3 composition where it's hopelessly deadlocked. Bring it to the floor of the RTM where the discussion belongs.
Representative Mirabili. I'll get to everyone, don't worry.
Nick Mirabili, District 9. I do like what Ed just said, and that basically what I was going to say was everyone obviously now wants to get up here and speak, and everybody wants to talk about their opinion on it, which is why I think it does need to come in front of the RTM. We need to bring the proposals forward, and we need to discuss them. I mean, it's been a year. There's been 18 meetings. I mean, seriously, this is an embarrassment. I mean, this committee, 3 and 3 on both sides, has talked about this ad nauseum, and they can't come to an agreement because they don't think it's fair. And I don't even know how to define the word fair and really what the objective is. So I don't get speechless a lot, but I'm listening to this, and I've been listening and talking about this and listening to the committee talk about it and hearing scuttlebutt at the caucus. And I have to say that this is exactly what gives government a bad name. So we got to wrap this up. We have to do something about it. We are going to be violating state statute. I think somebody said we're the only municipality that hasn't redrawn these lines. I mean, we've got 13%. We're 3% over. I took a bunch of notes here, and it seems to me that June 1st is fast approaching. We can't sit on this, and I think it's a joke to start over and put 3 more Democrats and 3 more Republicans and think anything's going to change. We got to bring this in front of the RTM. We got to vote on this. We got to make decisions. Thank you.
Representative Marks.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alan Marks, District 8. Those of you who know me also know that I am a fair-minded person. I listen to both sides of an argument. In this case, clearly we are at an impasse. And because we're at an impasse, there's an easy solution here. And that solution is to do the job that this committee was tasked to do, and that is to redistrict. Redistrict the existing districts so that we're in balance. We are within state statutes. That is an easy solution. We don't need to muddy the waters with changing the number of districts. That can be done as part of a charter revision if we want to. But we have a simple task here. Let's redistrict, make the districts we have in the state statutes within the limits. The current 10 districts have worked. Over the last several years, we have had Republican majorities in the RTM. We've had Democratic majorities in the RTM. So that is really what the purpose of the government in the 10 districts is to have balanced government from time to time. That's what 10 districts give us. I think that the committee needs to go back and do its work of the task that it was assigned, which is to redistrict what we have. Let's leave changing the number of districts to another discussion. I think we can get that done by the deadline of June. And as for bringing this to the floor of the RTM, clearly that is an unfair proposition. The reason that there are 3 committee members from each party is to make this fair and make them come to an agreement. This has to come out of committee of equal members. When it comes to the floor of the RTM, we all know what's going to happen since one party has a majority. Let's be fair about this. Let's do the job that we were tasked to do the easy solution, and we're done, and we can move on to the larger question at another time.
Representative Mazoff?
Amy Mezoff from District 4. There's a couple of things that were just said. There isn't an easy solution, clearly, if it's taken 18 meetings and there hasn't been even a glimmer of something to be brought before the body. I just want to point out one thing, that I'm from District 4. District 4 is primarily the district that's out of balance, that has, there's a 14% differential. And I want to remind everyone that the importance of this, because in the year that I was elected, there was a tie in my district. There were 6,436 people in our district, and there was a dead-on tie. So it's not something that's simple or unimportant. It doesn't matter, let's just draw the lines and get it over with. It's very important. And that was illustrated by the fact that in my district, we had a tie.
Representative McCarthy? Hey, let's not give Tom a hard time.
Okay. Comic relief. If I understand Representative Hopkins correctly, anything other than 10 districts, 5 representatives apiece, disadvantages one party, and for that reason is unfair, and for that reason he's intractable on this point. Is that a fair statement? That said, it doesn't sound like it's ever going to come out of committee, that he's in effect throwing his body across the tracks. In his view, anything other than that is unfair, and I respect his opinion.
Let's try to keep it towards the process and not
I'll veer out.
personalities, okay?
Sorry. That said, this is for 50 people to decide, not 6. As long as it stays in committee, effectively 6 people have the decision. I think that's unfair. A couple other things, as Mark pointed out, we worked together in the Senior Tax Relief Committee, and you really couldn't tell who was wearing a Republican hat, who was wearing a Democratic. It really didn't matter. We were working through a problem. I think that's what has to happen, and maybe to a certain extent, you know, we set the bar too high, so it's unfair to compare other committees against towards our committee. But so. I'm just trying to be fair, in the spirit of being fair, and okay. So, and lastly, in terms of it isn't broke, don't fix it. That's what happened to the U.S. auto industry. So let's proceed. Let's get a workable plan in place. I think the wisest thing I've heard is from Ed and John, and said, hey, look, we got one group who wants 8 with 5. We got another group who wants 10 and 5. Do you think maybe we could split the difference and figure this out with 50 of the brightest people in town here? That's all I've got to say.
Yes, Representative McAleese.
Don't break this.
Thank you, Jerry.
Chris Mackley's District 5. I believe we heard from the registrars, if I'm not mistaken, this evening that they can do 10 districts and it would be an anomaly in one in terms of the state vote, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe the direction from the state was to just reapportion so there's not the imbalance. Didn't say anything about changing the number of districts or the number of representatives. So I think the committee should just go with their original charge and fix the number problem. There's nothing that says they have to change the number of districts. Somebody is driving that issue, and we've been more than well informed from our caucus representatives who have done a fine job, and it ain't coming from them.
Okay, I'm going to end this now, and again, it was brought up because our charter, I think our charter is flawed in this regard. There is no tiebreaker. And I've never heard of a system or any type of body or organization that has no tiebreaker. And in all the wisdom of the people who created this, they just figured we'd all agree to something. And that's not always going to happen. In this case, it hasn't happened. So my intention of talking about this tonight, and I'm glad, you know, what do we have, 15 people talk about it? It's probably been more productive than the 6 who've talked over the last year. We've probably made more progress tonight than the last year. So I think it's important it was brought to this body. I still feel that it should be a decision in front of this body. Clearly, there's a charter issue, and I think this body is capable of making that decision, but it's getting around how we deal with the charter. But I think we needed to have this discussion to see where we're at and have people's views heard, because all we're hearing are the 6 that have been speaking so far, so through the committee. So I'm glad we at least had this conversation. Moving on. Where are we here? Item number 5. Make sure we've done 4. Next item is number 4, to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolutions recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that the Town of Fairfield, 1, establish the Osborne Hill School Building Committee, 2, authorize the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for this project, and 3, authorize the Board of Education to file an application for a school building grant. This is referred to all standing committees. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Mirabili, a second. Representative Stamler. Committee votes, L&A vote was 7 in favor, no opponents. Finance, no quorum, no vote. Public Works and Planning, no quorum, no vote. Public Health and Safety, all 8 in favor. Education and Recreation, all 7 in favor. Now open this item up to the body. No comments from the body. Any comments from the public? Yes.
Hi, good evening, Charlotte Leslie Hunter Road. I'm up here tonight because 2 of the committees haven't voted, so I just want to make sure that all the ducks are in a row. But I'm here to support this committee being formed. Sorry, it's been a long evening for you, too. For those of you who don't know me, I first became aware of building-related illnesses back in 2000 when McKinley Elementary School was closed because over 80 people reported illness in the building. My journey continued where I became a founding member of a group known as the Connecticut Foundation for Environmentally Safe Schools. I have been lobbying in Hartford over the years. In 2003, we passed a bill for indoor air quality. I was, along with Tom Cullen, who helped bring back Tools for Schools, a program that was put together by the EPA, and we were trained by the Department of Public Health on what to look for in schools. I was the PTA Council chairwoman of that committee. I was also the co-leader of the Fairfield Ludlow High School Committee for Tools for Schools, where we had been lobbying for years to get the windows looked at, and we ultimately found PCBs in those windows in parts of the building. They have been tested, and that's another course that's going in one direction. But the Osborne Hill windows, we all have been reading about it. We know that this is a vital thing that has to be corrected, along with some other things that have been coming along in the charge for that committee. This is a need, not a want. We need to fix the building. It is a sick building, and it is making the occupants sick as well. So please vote for this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Any members of the body? Okay, we're going to go ahead and vote on item number 4. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Representative McCarthy? The item passes, was that 4501? Okay. Moving on to next item, which is number 5, to hear, consider, and act upon the following appointments to the Osborne Hill School Building Committee as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Brett I. Bader, independent, 95 Sycamore Lane. Susan Cardona, unaffiliated, 227 Fern Street. William H. Dunn, Republican, 205 Tuckahoe Lane. Kimberly L. Marshall, Democrat, 180 Brookbend Road. Stephen D. White, unaffiliated, 98 Rosemore Avenue. This item is referred to all standing committees. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Schwartz, a second. Representative Bateson. Committee votes. L&A vote was 7 in favor, 7-0 in favor. Finance, no quorum, no vote. Public Works and Planning, no quorum, no vote. Public Health and Safety vote was 7 in favor, 1 abstention. Representative Hurley. Education and Recreation vote was 1 in favor. Representative Campbell, 2 against. You know what? I may have this wrong here. Education and Rec. I think I copied that information incorrectly. We're just going to move on to opening this up to the body. And I think do we have, which members are here? Are any of the members? We have 2 of them, and I think these were the 2 that were not here Wednesday. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. That's William and Stephen, right? Okay. Right. Okay, so we have William and Stephen who are here. If anybody has questions for them, they weren't at the Wednesday joint committee meeting, but they're here to answer any questions if anybody has any. Representative Hurley?
Michael Hurley, District 1. For the benefit of the joint committee that was held on Wednesday, could the 2 people who are interested in being appointed to this committee just come up for 30 seconds and...
I was at Wednesday's meeting.
You were
Okay.
Wednesday. There was, okay, so Stephen was not.
Okay.
And Kimberly was not. Kimberly's not here, is she? Okay. I know she was on Tuesday. She was not at Wednesday's meeting. Okay.
Could you just come up for our benefit and just introduce yourself? And
Right, no, what it is, we have 2 joint committee meetings, so you saw 3/5 of the members on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, we have our other joint committee with another 20 people, and they missed you.
Yeah, just a brief introduction. Thank you.
And that was a joint committee that Mr. Hurley chaired, hence the question.
I'm Stephen White. I've lived in Fairfield for 6 years. I have a 4-year-old son who will be entering the Fairfield Public School System. I was recommended by Heather Dean. I'm a builder of 27 years in both the commercial and residential capacity. And after reviewing the paperwork and everything for the project, I felt I could be useful and helpful here with some advisement, so that's why I volunteered.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, well, thank you. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Any other comments from the body? Any members of the public? Okay, we're going to vote on item number 5, which is the appointments to the Osborne Hill School Building Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Representative Ferentz, Representative McCullough. Abstentions? The item passes. Congratulations to both of you and the other 3 members. Good luck on the committee. You'll be very much needed, so thank you. Next item is number 6, to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Whereas the Board of Selectmen, at its meeting of February 6, 2013, tasked the Affordable Housing Committee to prepare an update to the Town of Fairfield's Affordable Housing Plan, and whereas the Affordable Housing Committee intends to seek grant funding. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Garskoff? Abstentions? Okay. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Mottola, second Representative Bateson. Now go over committee votes. L&A vote was 7-0 in favor. Finance, no quorum, no vote. Public Works and Planning, no quorum, no vote. Public Health and Safety, hope I have this right, vote was 3 in favor. Representatives Hochberg, Hurley, and D'Amica, 4 against. Representatives Pontrelli, Smay, Walkenmeyer, and 1 abstention, Representative Matt Ambrose. Education and Recreation vote was all 7 in favor. I will now open up this item to the body. Representative Ambrose.
Peter Ambrose, District 2. Is Mark Barnhart here tonight?
It doesn't look like it. Oh. Chair of the
Thank you.
Affordable Housing Committee.
Well, through you, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to ask Mr. Steve a few questions, if I may.
Sure. If you want to come on down. I was going to say.
Steve, I understand that the need to update the affordable housing plan because the last, I guess it's dated 19 years ago. It's been some time since it's been updated and reviewed. But my question to you is that if we accept this grant money, are there any strings attached to the acceptance of this grant money?
No. Can I get the
Sure,
microphone?
please.
Excuse me. It's been 25 years since the first plan was enacted, and so nothing's been updated in those 25
Can you
years.
just talk a little closer to the microphone? Thanks.
If we accept, if we apply for the grant money and it's approved, the only stipulation is that we consider an incentive housing zone, which is an overlay zone that gives bonuses in density for areas around mass transit and other commercial development like that. I'm sorry, but there is no requirement that we enact an incentive housing zone, just that we consider it.
There is a requirement, however, that we consider this plan. Are you familiar with the, how other communities have addressed this same mandate?
And can you explain the mandate? What do you mean?
If in fact we're asked to consider this plan, how far does that reach out?
I believe that last year, something like 50 communities were given funds under the program. Locally, I think Darien, New Canaan, maybe Reading. But a couple of the communities I know did go forward and enact incentive housing zone. And then for that, they've applied for additional funding that the state has available. A large number of them, though, did not enact an incentive housing zone.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Any members of the public? Okay, we're going to go ahead and vote on item number 6. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, I'm going to, just raise your hand, I'm going to read your names out. Representative Smay, Fellner, DiMartino, Pontrelli, Ambrose, Braun, Meyer, Lip, Ferentz. Both Ambroses. Abstentions. Representative McCullough. The item passes. Moving along to item number 8. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that the bond appropriation entitled a resolution appropriating $1,037,000 for the cost of certain non-recurring capital projects and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation consisting of 3 pages, a copy of which is attached hereto, be and hereby is approved. This item was referred to all standing committees. May I have a motion to approve this bond? Representative Stamler, a second. Representative Marks, thank you. Now I'll go over committee votes. L&A, the vote was 4 in favor and 3 abstentions. Representatives Bateson, Becker, and Braun abstained. Finance, Public Works, and Planning, no quorum, no vote. Public Health and Safety vote was 6 in favor, 2 against. Representatives Meyer and Pontrelli. And Education and Recreation had two motions that were made to cut certain parts of the bond, but both failed. Vote on the original bond amount was 1 in favor, Representative Campbell, 4 against, Representatives Gottlieb, Lip, McCullough, and Patton, and 2 abstentions, Representatives Jennings and Way. Now, there are 6 items, 6 parts of this item, and I'll now open this up to the body. Representative Lip. So Representative Lip makes a motion to divide. I don't need a second on that. These items are now divided, and the best way to go through it is we're going to start with Town Hall, Duck Farm, Fire Station, Police Station, Fairfield Woods, and Smith. All we're going to do is going to go through each one, discuss, questions, comments. If that's it, we move on to the next one. Any motion should be made at the time of discussion of that item. So we'll start with the old Town Hall, the installation of emergency generator for $105,000. Are there any comments from the body? Representative Lip. You got to come up. You got to be in front of the TV and mic.
JLEP District 1, I move that we remove $105,000 for the funding of the emergency generator for the Old Town Hall. I think at this time we can't afford to spend money on that we haven't spent before on a program that we've done well for many years without, and it's an emergency consideration, and I think if that comes up again, we can look at other means.
So the motion is to amend this item by reducing it by $105,000, eliminating the emergency generator. Is there a second on that motion? Representative Braun. Discussion on this item, this amendment only. Representative Marmion? No, go ahead.
Sheila Marmion, District 6. I don't support removing this item. I think we heard from several people that the generator, having the generator would make our government work more seamlessly. We're operating with, essentially right now, without that generator in place, 2 separate town halls. We have important functions, the town clerk's office, registrar of voters. You know, we couldn't collect, we almost missed a tax deadline where we would have deprived our town of having income come into the workings of our government. I strongly support this generator. We need it. I think, as you said, we can't afford it. I think we can't afford not to support this generator, given that we can lose revenue. Also, we have employees that we're paying to work and they can't go to work when there's an emergency situation. So in fact, we're losing money by not supporting this. Thank you.
Mr. Tetra.
Just to be clear, we've had a number of recent incidents with storms where this has had a severe impact on Old Town Hall and the personnel. One, most recently with Storm Sandy, we went through the issue of being out of power right along a tax deadline. We were not able to collect taxes from people that wanted to come in and pay. There isn't a business out there that if people want to pay their money, they don't want to take it. Now, specifically, taking taxes is something that is governed strongly by state statute. So if we couldn't have collected the taxes, if we couldn't have accepted the money on that Thursday when we finally did, and the governor did extend the deadline 2 weeks, our citizens would have been charged for being late, even though the issue with us. And we could not charge them that late fee. That's property taxes, that was motor vehicle taxes, that was WPCA. Second, for the second year in a row, not only do we had an issue with elections, and our registrar of voters offices were hampered severely by not having power going in, both during Storm Alfred and then again during Storm Sandy. Right? We saw 2 years in a row the impact that could have. And the right to vote, as we talked a lot about earlier tonight, is one of the most precious rights our citizens have. and being open and being able to make the modifications necessary. In this case, in Storm Sandy, was having our registrar of voters be functional enough to change where our polling places were if need be, and make sure that the polling places were up to snuff, and be in communication with the Secretary of the State offices if that was the case. Third, and the Board of Finance did the math, and it doesn't take much math to figure it out. When we can't have our offices open, we basically ask for only non-essential personnel to come in, or only essential personnel to come in, rather. The non-essential personnel are home, and we're paying them. And if you do the math, there isn't a bigger ding on employee productivity than saying stay home and don't come to work, right? And at times like this, we need every employee we can. We need all hands on deck to help manage through a crisis like this. Now, I want to say that this is not just about hurricanes and snowstorms. We can lose power at any point in time, and that can be as damaging to productivity as a big storm. And then lastly, think about if this happens in the winter. Think about if this happens during a severe, we didn't lose power during Nemo, thank God. But if we had, over the weekend, we've got those pipes full of water in the Old Town Hall, built back before insulation was in vogue. We want to be careful about what we're doing to our major asset there and making sure we protect it. For all those reasons, this is a very reasonable cost to pay to make sure that's protected. And because of the way it's being financed, it's not a tax hit all at one time.
Any other members? Wow. Representative DiMartino.
Joe DiMartino, District 4. Mr. Moderator, through you, I'd like to ask Mr. Tetro, has anything changed in the past several years that prompt this need for these generators now? I know that there have been some storms, obviously, we've all lived through those. You know, are there trees near the building that need to be addressed, that we're worried about falling on the building and disrupting power? Is there anything that's changed that's compelling us to spend $100,000 now, when obviously we're having budget issues? We want to keep the budget as under control as possible, for those of us who may see this as extraneous costs.
You're not making the argument that if it isn't broke, don't fix it, right?
No.
Okay, just checking.
It's a little redundant.
We just went through this with Storm Sandy in terms of the productivity of our employees. We probably spent more money than this telling people to stay home and not getting the work out of them. So from that standpoint, that's a major cost factor. It doesn't take many days like that to have this pay for itself and improve employee productivity. And when we're looking at what we pay on employees, and the cost of employees has been a topic of discussion on this board, making sure we're doing what we can to make sure they're productive when we ask them to come to work is important.
What, excuse me, on that point, what did that cost the town? It sounds like you have those numbers handy.
I don't right off the top of my head. The Board of
okay.
Finance did do that, did exactly that calculation, though, during their discussion.
Okay.
All right,
You don't
and-
have the numbers.
I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head, but they certainly thought it was, they did the math, and it came out to have a payback very quickly in terms of the number of days. And again, when you're talking about the tax collector, you're talking about the registrar of voters, and Mr. Moderator, through you, we might get a perspective from the town clerk as to what it means to her office when we're out of power.
Do you want to volunteer that town perspective? Sure.
Can I ask just a follow-up question? Is there, have alternatives been considered here? I know that, many people throughout town, and we're talking about a, public building here. Granted, it's not a building of this size. Are there generators that can be brought in and plugged into recirculating electrical to meet the needs in a emergency situation like we have at our homes and small businesses?
I think the issue, as you said, is for your homes or small businesses, a smaller generator, portable, might work. For something like this, to keep the building up, the electrical functions as well as the heat, the most cost-effective approach was this one as proposed by Department of Public Works.
Thank you.
Do you want let's have the town clerk give her perspective.
Betsy.
I wanna hear it.
Okay,
I'd like
let's
to
hear it.
Thank you. Betsy Brown, Town Clerk. Old Town Hall is an historic building, if you didn't know that. If the pipes freeze, you're jeopardizing not only the historic significance of the building, you're jeopardizing the town vault, where your deeds, your mortgages, tax liens, it's the lifeline of the town right there. If there's an emergency, all the vital records are there. We rebuild based on what's in that vault. And if, like First Selectman Tetro said, if the pipes freeze over a weekend, I don't know what's going to happen. The building's not sprinkled, so, there are issues.
Has that happened with the pipes? I'm just curious. I'm not.
No,
Okay.
knock wood. When we had Hurricane Sandy, it was during election season. I had to issue absentee ballots from the probate court. We issued over 100 ballots that day alone because people were still coming in. So it's a lifeline.
Okay.
So
Thanks
I
for
would
sharing the perspective. I
respectfully
appreciate it.
ask that everyone support this appropriation.
Thank you.
Any other comments? There were a couple here. Representative Becker?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. David Becker, District 1. I am going to be in support of the amendment to reduce, not because I don't want a generator to be able to be supplying power at that location, because I don't believe a fixed mount generator is the solution. I think we have a lot of problems in town still, even after this, regarding power. We found out there are certainly priorities, and it would be helpful, I think, for us to have portable generators, maybe even more, maybe. Oddly enough, it's not so much about the cost here, but the theory in this. If it cost more, maybe it would actually still be a better solution. And I would like, if this particular motion, and quite frankly, whether it fails or not, for us to look at whether or not our town, for all of the facilities, needs to have a better plan with portable generators, very large, probably trailable, and then the proper hookups and whatnot through the buildings. It's probably not a cheap thing, but it might turn out to be better than something like this in the long run. So I'm in support of reducing it, but hopefully, if this does get removed, or like I said, either way, the administration looking at that as actually a better solution. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Representative Lee.
Yeah, Representative Lee, District 10. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Michelangelo the other night said the life of this generator was somewhere north of 20 years. Is that correct? 25, 30 years. So if you look at it from that point of view, it's about $5,000 a year if it only lasts 20 years. I don't know what we paid those people who didn't come to work, but I'm pretty sure it's more than $5,000. The other thing about emergency generators is they come on when the power spikes, too. I mean, we have power drop off. I'm an IT guy. That's not very good for things. And, this is short money, really, when you sit down and think about it.
Thank you. Representative Mezov?
It goes like this. It occurs to me that our town clerk made the point that this is an historic building. And a big concern that I would have is if something were to go wrong, that building would have to be rebuilt to the specs of an historic building, which we all know is significantly more than patching it together. That it would have to be, if there were some incident and something were to happen, like a pipe froze and broke, that it could end up costing us significantly more to rebuild the building because we were kind of being short-sighted about this. So I can't support this cut.
Representative Dean?
Representative Dean, District 4. I will not be supporting this cut for several reasons. It's my understanding, my memory, that during these storms, roads were blocked off considerably. I can't even imagine trying to drag generators to the town hall to try to get it started again if we were able to, if we had that as an option. Secondly, during Irene, many of you know I run a small daycare center out of my home. I've been doing it for 10 years. I take care of 12 families, babies, and during that storm, I was not able to perform any services to serve any of these families, and they were scrambling for care for 3 and 4 days because we had no power. We had no damage to our home. Our streets were passable, but we had no power. So we invested in a generator. And I can guarantee you I will never, ever have to use that generator because I bought a generator. But I don't care because I want heat. I want to be able to cook. I want to be able to make sure I can open my daycare for families who are working every single day without worry. So I will support this. Thank you.
Representative Stamler.
A number of people have asked about the cost of lost work, and I believe I have in front of me a response from Mr. Michelangelo, head of Department of Public Works, that the based on annual salary, the lost cost per person was $5,700 a day. No, that wouldn't be per person. $5,700 a day for the 22 full-time employees, not including benefits. So 4 days is well north of $20,000, and that already happened once. The other thing I would just note in terms of history and what's different, while there is wildly divergent opinion on this, it does appear that in the last 2 years there have been a greater number of serious weather events than there have been previously. And I think if anything like that were to even stay at this level, let alone grow more frequent, the need for a generator might become increasingly apparent.
Thank you. Representative Patton.
Mark Patton, District 7. I've been pretty vocal on this item over the last month or so. I'll first off start by saying that of most of the 6 items, I do believe that there is a need for all of them. So I'm going to make a general statement first before I talk about the generator specifically. Overall, the debt service is what worries me, and it doesn't matter if it's $1 million this time or $5 million next year or whatever it is. It's a budget driver, and it tends to be year over year, and things have to change. We can't bond things like we used to. Things that are $100,000, $150,000, there's got to be a way to fit those things in, maybe over a few years of a budget. Maybe there's real short-term bonding, like over a couple of years instead of 20 years. I know the generator lasts for 25 years, and bonding it for 20, that doesn't seem very efficient to me. HVAC systems can last for 10, 15, 20 years. Bonding those for 20 years, it doesn't seem very efficient to me. So sadly, while I do think all these things are needed, I absolutely think the town needs this generator. I just don't feel bonding is the way to do it, and I am in support of this reduction.
Representative Harley.
Michael Hurley, District 1. At the last meeting, in the last month's subcommittee meeting, I thought the generator was a good investment. At this month's subcommittee meeting, I thought it was as well. But I think Representative Becker raises a fair point in terms of what our strategy may be for different buildings, and whether a few portable generators, and even if it costs, potentially a little bit more, might be a better solution for the town. I was just hoping that our DPW director could just talk just for a few minutes to the point that Representative Becker made.
Now, there are a couple ways to provide temporary services, generator service to buildings other than this, which would be an automatic transfer, so the power goes off, 3, 2, 1, bang, it goes on generator. There's other ways to do it. We could reconfigure the building, Old Town Hall, with what they call a pigtail, which is a plug on the outside, a big plug on the outside, but the generator that would have to service it is not something that we own. We have a generator on the trailer at the police department, which is about 38, whatever the wattage is there. This would have to be about 3 or 4 times the size of that. So we don't own that unit to bring there to charge up Old Town Hall the way it's configured now. You could get almost like you hotwire a car, you could get a big generator and get some big cables and attach it to the surface of the building. But once again, that's a one-time only thing. We don't own that generator. If you're thinking about, getting, basically Honda ones with startups and pulling extension cords around there, that wouldn't be a practical way to service it either. When in emergency, this was an emergency operation, so during this past Storm Sandy, when Public Works had to bug out of One Rod Highway, we moved our operations to the Park and Rec facility. And that's what we actually did. We got a generator, rented a generator, put some cables that are this big, and basically hot wire that building to run it. But that does not provide the same level of service. And once again, when we're running around doing all types of activities, that's not what we want to do for Old Town Hall or our libraries or any of our buildings. It's just a different level of service that requires man hours when we want to be doing something else.
Representative Walk?
Jay Wolk, District 6. I'll be quick. I've just been listening to this conversation for I don't know how long already, and I'll reiterate what Representative Bateson says is, what if, which no disrespect. We as a body have to believe into the people that do this for a living. We all do different things for a living here. And this gentleman, who is the head of the Department of Public Works, is saying that this is what we need for Town Hall, and we have another person sitting here, Betsy Brown, who knows how vital everything in this building is. It's not that much money. I mean, if we're talking 2, 3 million, 5 million, all right. And to Representative, my friend, Mark Patton, Eric.
We were calling people out, remember?
It's a good thing, it's not a bad thing.
Yes, all right.
Anyway, bonding is where it's at right now. The interest rates are low enough to do it. We should just go ahead and just, let's get this done.
Okay.
Thank you.
By the way, I have no idea where that was going, but, okay, we're going to wrap this up.
I'm in support of the generator.
Okay. I'm going to go to the public on this. Any members of the public? All right. We're going to vote on this. We're going to vote on this amendment to reduce the bond by $105,000. That's what we're doing at this point. I think let me look at a show of hands, but all those in favor of reducing this amount, raise your hand. In favor of the cut. In favor of the cut. Can I read the names? You all right? Representative Becker, Varian, DiMartino, McCarthy, Pontrelli, Braun, Meyer, Lip, Patton, Ryan, is McCullough, and Representative Conley. Representative Hurley, too. You didn't raise it high enough. All those against? Everyone else. Let me look at any abstentions. Okay. Representative Way, okay. So that item fails. We'll move on to Duck Farm Road Bridge. Design of new bridge over Mill River for $300,000. Is there any comment on that? Any comment from the public on that? Okay. Moving on, Fire Station Number 1, HVAC improvements for $172,000. Any comments from the body? Any comments from the public? Moving on, Police Station HVAC for $160,000. Any comments from the body? Comments from the public? Bless you. Moving on, Fairfield Woods Branch Library re-roofing project for $200,000. Any comments from the body? Representative Meyer. have a bidder.
Gaylord Meyer, District 1. And Mr. Michelangelo, to the monitor, may I like to ask him, Mr.
Michelangelo?
Michelangelo's question? Yeah.
No, he's right here, yes.
In 1989, there was an addition or repair to the library at Fairfield Woods. And they used a product called Tectum. Yes, are you familiar with that? That was referred to as like a shredded wheat. And the reason that it was used was in the 60s, it was because commercially it was cheap, it was lightweight, and you could use it as not only an exterior but also an interior ceiling. To my understanding, that roof has continually leaked since 1989. Would that be a fair statement?
Not since, no.
Okay. That's why I'm asking the question.
Now, I think the history of the building, I believe, was that the Tectum was installed as part of the original construction. So if you go there now, the first generation has, on the top has Tectum, which serves as the ceiling for a lot, and there's a concrete slab on top of it. I believe the 1989 edition had the basically corrugated metal, and all those sections had the rubber roof on it. So I don't know, but I would think that, 1989 is day one of the roof. So even though it has leaked, I don't believe it started leaking from 1989. It probably started leaking, sometime after that, between then and now.
Okay. This product is usually not used anymore, and the reason it's not used is because it does absorb moisture. So when it gets wet, it expands, and when it dries, if it does dry, it holds moisture and shreds. The question, I guess, that I have concern, I did go on the tour by Miss Tierney, Christian, and it was very informative. My concern is, obviously, we need a library. We need a library, but we unfortunately don't have the money to do this. They would like to put on this new roof, and the reason that I can't vote for this is that there's not just the roof. I honestly believe that there should be testing for mold. This building has been leaking for years. They have constantly tried to repair it with Band-Aids. They have windows that leak. When they did the Fairfield Woods Middle School, there was blasting and there was cracking to the foundation. You have interior damage. My concern is that, yeah, you can go and do $200,000 on this roof, but we got a bigger problem here. I think we got to find out if we have environmental problems here. You have children, you have the public, you have the librarians coming in and out of here, and what else could you possibly have? So I cannot support this, and I would like to eliminate. Thank you.
So, are you making a motion?
I am.
Okay, so, reading
Making a
your
motion.
mind, you're making a motion to amend by reducing this
Thank
by
God you're here.
$200,000. I'll just save you the breath. Is there a second to reduce this? Representative Braun. Okay, discussion now is on the amendment to reduce the bond by $200,000 to eliminate the Fairfield Woods Library re-roofing. Is there any comment on the amendment? Representative Schwartz.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Hal Schwartz, District 7. I'm hearing to say there's no way that we should even think about supporting this motion. The library, we all know we need a new library. We all know we can't afford it, but we got to fix the one we have. We need to spend the money on it. The tour was done. People went and looked. The roof's in bad shape. It needs to be repaired. Whether the testing is done, needs to be done, that's all can be done later, but we need to fix the problem now. And otherwise, we lose the library, and it gets worse from here. So I urge you not to support this motion to cut the roof. The library needs to be fixed, at least at this point in time, and hopefully sometime down the road, we'll have another discussion about the library. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the amendment? Representative Gottlieb.
Julie Gottlieb, District 6. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to Mr. Michelangelo, Can you tell us whether there was mold testing done and when that was and what the results? I thought I heard something Wednesday night on that already.
Sure, and I'll just talk briefly. Mrs. Leslie mentioned like the protocol that the Board of Ed follows and what most building professionals follow. So even though I've been here for 6 months, the town has followed that too. So once again, when you have signs of problems, so if I got a call tomorrow morning from an RTM member saying, you know, I was deathly sick from the environmental condition at the building, not anything else, well, you look at the building, you look at signs, you don't test for mold, you look at the building, what's going on here? Is air moving through those things? Is that dirty? Is the carpeting clean? If I do a finger test on the desk, will be there dirt there? Is there blockage along the back ventilator where the air is coming in? Is there some kind of chemicals, things like that? So you do a reconnaissance on the building, you get the symptoms from the people, you look at the overall picture, because all testing is going to do is say on this one spot. So at Fairfield Woods Library, I think there was a complaint about, obviously because there was water there, complaint about possible mold. So the only time that I know we tested specifically for mold was probably around 4 years ago, and I believe that came up negative. There were instances where there was problems on ceiling tiles. So if a ceiling tile has water stains on it, has water in it, you replace the ceiling tile. You don't necessarily need to test for that. Similarly with carpeting, when carpeting got wet, we replaced that. So I believe that the proper protocols have been followed over the years on that. And once again, we haven't had a great deal of indicators from the people that use the building. And there's numerous staff, there's numerous people there, and there's not a whole lot of incidents or a push, a desire to do a full air quality assessment on it. So, but that can be done. But once again, the situation hasn't dictated that up to this point.
This is my neighborhood library. I've heard more from my constituents on this particular item than anything else, including the overall budget, which is a little bit of a surprise. But I will not be supporting this motion. People want the roof fixed. They want the library fixed. And this is as good as we're going to get right now, and that's what they want. Thanks.
Representative Walker. I'll get you in a second.
Jay Walk, District 6. I have a question.
Is this going to be directed at Patton again?
No. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to Joe, on the question of mold. Mold is all over. There's surface mold. There's mold on the walls. There's mold on the door. There's mold all over the place. So my question to you is, and it is your testing that what I'm understanding is there hasn't been any complaints or anybody getting sick in the library from this mold. Am I correct in saying that that's what you were just saying?
As far as I know, correct.
Okay. This roof, I had the privilege to be on 2 tours, one with our first selectman and the selectman, Kristen McCarthy Fahey, and David Becker. And I was just on the recent tour, and I saw the same thing I saw on the first tour. Buckets upstairs with water leaking. That'll be fixed when the roof is fixed. The roof is in dire need to be fixed. I also have this other notion that I've been hearing that it's not, and I'll just end it on this, that we think that we need a new library, that the whole library needs to be done. That's an incorrect statement, and I want to bring up Kristen Tierney just to ask her through you, Mr. Moderator, if I could, what needs actually, just quick in a couple of words, if you can just come up and step up here, what actually needs inside the library if it's just the library, we need a new library.
Can I have everyone's attention, please?
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm asking you to get this roof done because we really need this roof fixed now to protect the town asset, and also because this has been a driver for us for 5 or 6 years as a board. Our primary concern when we saw we saw a waterfall where there was going to be some work done on the library. This was probably in 2008 to 2009 when I first got on the board. We started to look into what we really needed to do. We knew we needed the roof, and we knew we needed a lift for handicap accessibility. And when we saw that it looked like the funding would possibly be able to come in 2010, 2011, we decided to take on a feasibility study to figure out how to do it in the most cost-effective manner so that the taxpayers weren't paying for this feasibility study and we could get moving right away because the roof was truly in dire condition. Since then, it's just this roof has to be done now, not just for the library, but to protect the asset. We as a board did a feasibility study knowing that once we did it, we were just trying to find out with all of the specs that you get for education specs, library specs, load, floor loads, everything, what we needed, what we could do and couldn't do. We didn't ask for a tear down. It's not our call for a tear down. We just wanted all of the information to go to whoever the town body would be as a building committee to make a decision on what they were going to do. They could decide to only do the roof, make it handicap accessible, tear it down, whatever it is that they needed to do. But we weren't asking for a new building. That was not our driver. Our driver was the roof and handicapped accessibility because it's our busiest branch library in the state. So we need this roof done. This is dire, and I'll tell you, month after month, the condition is getting worse and worse in that building, and I'm in that building all the time, and I'm very, very concerned about this for our employees, for the town asset, and for our patrons. So I please ask you to support this $200,000. It's money well spent.
Thank you very much. Jay, are you good?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Representative Dean? We haven't gone to public yet. Any other members comment on the amendment? Any members of the public wish to comment on the proposal to cut?
Hi, Charlotte Leslie, Hunter Road. I am against cutting this $200,000. Okay, I work with schools, but what I know is indoor air quality. And what happened at McKinley was for years it rained in the building. Well, that's exactly what's been going on in the library. It has been raining for years in the library. They've talked about the buckets, the water splashing all over the floor. They are not taking care of the building. I'm sure if you rip up the carpets, you're going to find the whole carpet is full of mold. What you have people, 3 kinds of people. One who never gets sick, which is fortunate for those people. People who go into a building, get sick, and as soon as they come out, they're fine. You have people who get sick in a building, they leave, they never get fine. They are sick for the rest of their lives. Some of the symptoms that we are now going to be putting on people in our town and people who work there are respiratory problems like asthma, chronic sinusitis, wheezing, difficulty breathing, allergies, nasal and sinus congestion, eye irritation, coughing and throat irritation, dizziness, skin rashes, headaches or migraines, hypersensitivity pneumonitis, which is a lung disease. Now, over the years, I personally, since 2000, have been called in to do walkthroughs through buildings. I go into public schools, I go into nursery schools, I go into the library extensively at the branch. I've been asked to come in and do walkthroughs there, as well as people's homes. Because up until about 2 years ago, I could go into a building, come out, and have no problem. I can't do that anymore. My situation is my immune system can no longer go into the library, the branch library, because within 10 minutes, I've got to get out of that building. So I know people, I have been talking to people who work at the library, who are patrons at the library, and I can tell you that there is serious health effects to a large part of our community. We know it's been raining in the building. We know the groundwater is coming up. We know they have been doing the best they can. They have been replacing the tiles, but the floor is wet. There's a smell in the building if you go in there. This last storm, that was the only building that the DPW went and had to shovel off the snow from the roof because they were concerned that with all that snow and that water melting would go right into the building. Not one other building in town required that kind of desperate measures. So, when we say that side of town or that library, I hate to clue you, but the books are going back and forth. And I know me, I go into both libraries whenever I can. So I don't have a side of town. It's not only certain RTM districts that have to worry about this. This is one of our town libraries.
We're going to try to wrap up.
All right, I'm wrapping it up. The Library Board of Trustees came up with 3 designs. So unless we fix this roof now, you're only going to have one choice, and that's going to be like McKinley. You're going to have to demolish that building. So if you don't want to demolish the building and rebuild, you need to fix the roof right now. I'd like to see you at least remove the carpet, because I am convinced that that whole floor is full of mold. I'd like to see the formation of a building committee. I have here some websites.
Okay, we're just talking about the roof, though. We're just still talking about the roof. Any other members of the public? I know. Okay, we're coming back to the body. First Selectman Tetro would like to speak, but I will like to interrupt for a second and entertain a motion to suspend the rules, to waive rule number 36, Robert's RTM rules to regulate, take off new business, rule number 36, to take on new business after 11 o'clock and continue talking past 11:30 if necessary. Two-thirds vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Representative Varian, Mirabili, McCullough. Abstentions. Item passes, motion passes, and we continue on. First Selectman. It was rule number 36.
Yeah. I'm used to Gibbs's rules number 36. I didn't realize you had them too, Joe. Quickly, that the library roof needs to be replaced, and it needs to be replaced because it's leaking. Now, it's leaking because we should have replaced it about 7 or 8 years ago from what I've been told. We didn't do that. We've patched it, we've repatched it, we've double repatched it. We can't patch it anymore. This is the cheapest solution to stopping the leaking. Right? We need to protect the asset, which is the building, and we need to protect the assets in the building, which are both the books and the people. Right? In the meantime, I've asked the Town Facilities Commission, the TFC, to take a look at what other patches or fixes or other things we can do to help keep that building in operation while we evaluate the longer term. In this economy, the amount of money it would take to do a significant renovation on that is difficult to fund. So when we talk about not bonding, that doesn't mean not doing anything. We need to do some things to extend the life of the building and extend the usability of the building, or we're faced with not using it. All right? Because if you don't do this, and anything that Charlotte said is close to the truth, then we might be in a position of not being able to use the facility. We need to stop the water from coming in. We need to make sure we maintain the air quality. We will continue to monitor it for mold, as we have been doing. We will continue to look at the other fixes that we can do with the Town Facilities Commission and what their recommendations are. But we've got to stop the water from coming in. Thank you.
Any other members? Okay, here we go. We're going to vote on the amendment to reduce the full bond by $200,000 by saying yes. That means you are in support of the reduction. And we're just going to do hands. All those in favor of this reduction, raise your hand, please. Representative Meyer. All those opposed? Abstentions? Representative Braun. So the amendment fails, and we are down to the final item, which is H. Smith Richardson bunker and tee box renovation, going for $100,000. Any comments from the body? Any comments from the public? Okay, we're going to vote on this item. I'm sorry, we're not going to vote on this item. We're done. So sorry, Jerry, to make you stay till 11 o'clock, but that's a good thing. We are now at the final total, which remains the same as when we started, of $1,037,000. We're now going to vote, voice vote, on item number 8, $1,037,000 for this bond. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Lip, Representative Meyer, Braun, Pontrelli, McCullough. Abstentions? The bond passes. We move on to item number 9, which is an adoption of elections emergency plan. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Mottola, second Representative Lee. Committee votes, L&A, vote was all 7 abstained. Finance, Public Works, no vote. Public Health and Safety, vote was all 8 in favor. Ed and Rex had a sense of the body vote, not a real vote. And it was all 7 in favor. I'll now open up this item to the body. Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Bateson, District 3. I'd like to make a motion. I'm assuming I'm making a motion to change this.
To amend it? Sure.
Amend it. On page 2, let's say Section 4, Part B, emergency actions. That shall be Section 8 referred to, not Section 7.
All right, I'm just grabbing my sheet here, so unless you have it right there. Okay, I have it here. So repeat again?
Okay, Section 4, Part B, emergency actions. In that paragraph, Section 7 should be Section 8.
Section 4. Still finding Section 4 here. Show me what you're talking about. Frequency? No. Oh, no, that's... I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, so you want it to read what? Section 8. Section 8. Is that the only amendment? No, there's one more. Okay.
Okay, and also, too, under Section 10, I am, Part A, I would like to eliminate, which is basically saying, in order to protect the security of occupants in school buildings and to allow for unhindered entrance and egress of voters to the polling areas, it shall be the town BOE policy that all public schools designated as polling places be closed for education purposes. My purpose in eliminating that is I'm a little uncomfortable. I don't think we have the right to tell the BOE what to do. That's just my personal opinion in recommending that. If anybody wants to soften up that language, I would be amenable to that and say it should be the recommendation. We could recommend that schools be closed, but I don't know if we can do that.
Now, which section was that second comment then again? I got your
Section
first one.
10,
Yep.
Part A.
Okay, so you want to eliminate or modify?
Well, right now I'm leaning towards eliminating that just for the simple fact, I just don't think the RTM has the power to do that. I don't think we have the power to tell the BOE what to do.
Consult with the town's secure.
Right?
Shall be closed.
Right, for probably...
Yeah, I'm not sure. We don't have the,
Okay,
the town
hold-
attorney here.
Yeah, maybe we're talking about a general election. This is an election, so that would be a referenda, anything. I mean, probably for election days we are closed, but let's say there's a primary or something else. Yeah, sure. If Mr. Wagner can comment.
Closed for education purposes.
I'm doing a solo act. Roger will come up in a bit, maybe. This actually, there is no state law requiring that schools be closed on Election Day. Actually, a number of towns do have all of their schools open, even in general elections. There are a couple things we're looking to address. We're concerned about parking and building access. We're concerned, and this is a question that was raised when some Board of Education members came to us to ask about having potentially the Fairfield schools open on general election days. There are certain people who aren't generally allowed to go within 1,000 feet of a school that would be permitted on Election Day to do so. They thought maybe that would be an unwise road to travel down. And also, just as towns are enacting these emergency plans, the issue that they crater on, that no one has been able to resolve, is how to reconcile police lockdown procedures with, you know, the getting lists and ballots in and out of the polling place. That you've basically, if you have a lockdown, and that's something that's sort of in the post-Newtown environment a lot of people are very mindful of, that you have no way of actually continuing the election in that portion of the town at all. You can't get the list out. They're not willing to make a sort of a permeable membrane for your poll workers to exit from. So the purpose of this section was actually to guide the Board of Selectmen when we have a special election or a referendum to schedule it for a weekend. Those are always given a 7-day window, those unexpected election events in which they can be scheduled. It also would give us the ability to designate a polling place as having been rendered unusable by the terms of this plan. If, for example, there was an election where the school decided, well, we really need to be open, we need to meet the minimum number of days for our school calendar, it would allow us, no matter when that determination was made, to relocate the polling place to another facility in town, or to combine 2 districts into one, for example. One thing, and a couple members have actually written to us about this, it's important to note that actually we don't have a standing arrangement with the schools. We apply to use them at each election, and they would still preserve the ability to say no. You know, we can't accommodate you on that day. This doesn't change that. We still ask them, and from time to time they've not allowed us to use specific polling places due to cleanup or construction work. So this wouldn't restrict the Board of Education. It would just make it that there would never be a situation where we have all of our voters having to come to the polls on the same day that school's in session. And actually, in our sort of current security environment, that's a concern that a lot of parents have about allowing essentially 3,000 to 4,000 strangers into the building where their kids are present during the day.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to follow.
Let me let Ed finish.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up. Hearing Mr. Wagner's comments, it seems they want this. I'm unwilling to tell the BOE what to do, so I'm going to withdraw my amendment to strike that, and I'm going to change the words in here and say, as opposed to "it shall be the town BOE policy," that's to say, "It is recommended that all public schools designated as polling places shall be closed."
Okay, so you're striking "it shall be the town BOE policy" and instead writing in.
It is recommended that all public schools designated as polling places shall be closed for education purposes. I'm more comfortable recommending. I don't think we can tell them what to do.
Okay.
Can you live with that, Mr. Wagner?
Okay.
There's those 2 amendments.
I'm going to have okay, so it's I'm going to say just a double-sided amendment here. A
Yes.
2-pronged amendment. Is there a second on those amendments? Representative Stamler. Now we're going to discuss those amendments. Did you want to have I'll have you come up now and ask that question.
I think Mr. Bates raises a good point, and I think to this, the way this is worded is stating that the town and BOE policy shall be. So I think the change in wording is well taken, because given this document is from the Registrar of Voters, it can be that it's the policy of the Registrar of Voters that the school should be closed, which then you're in control of, and then you can choose to use that school or not as a polling place. But without going to the Board of Ed, or in this case the town, or both, to have the Board of Ed pass the policy or the town pass the policy, I think it just might be overstating what you're trying to do here. That's all. So I would support the amendment if I were voting.
Okay. Representative Stamler on the amendment.
I think the amendment is well considered. I support it. And Mr. Bateson, would you consider a friendly amendment an addition? There's an additional change in Section 10B. I believe there should be a period after the word hours in the 3rd line, and a new sentence should begin with the word the. Thank you.
So this is primary day hours, period, and then capital T for the in 10B? Well, we're here till 11 o'clock for good reason. I'm just teasing. We are dotting our i's. That's right. Okay. So it's a 3-part amendment, still seconded by Representative Stamler, because it's accepted by Representative Bateson, who made the original amendment. So that is what's on the floor. Comments on that 3-part amendment, Representative Becker.
Yeah, not about a comma, but pretty close. Actually, through you, Mr. Moderator, David Becker, District 1, so through you, Mr. Moderator, actually back to Matt Wagner. I would question, we're now reducing, we're taking out shall be the town BOE policy and putting in is recommended. Instead of, one other option might have been just to remove the /BOE, so it's town policy. Noting the is recommended, does that put enough teeth in it for you from a state standpoint, or would you be better off simply taking out the letters BOE, which would, I believe, also satisfy Representative Bateson's concern and make it town policy now?
Mr. Artori.
We're going to switch over to
That's fine. Tag team approach. It's good.
I was the one that originally wrote it, and it was my experience that when you ask BOE to do something, you don't really get a reply back within a timely fashion. And I'm still waiting to know if the Osborne Hill School is ready for the primary. I still haven't got that email back. So that's why I put down it shall be the policy, town policy, BOE policy, basically to fire a shot over their heads saying, we need an answer on this. This is serious stuff. Has to do with security of the schools, has also to do with the egress and access to the schools for the voters. There's two important issues here, and they're almost co-equal, and they don't exist the way things are now. If you've gone to any of the schools now, you got a doorbell, you got a ring, somebody has to recognize you, you get buzzed in, which is fine. That's great. The only thing, if you got a line of people, or you got one or two people, and you start buzzing them in, meanwhile somebody else comes up behind you, what do you do? Who's responsible? And I don't want to have a problem where, because of voters, some nutcase gets snuck in through there, we have problems. So it has to be decided, this has to be done, and that's why I did it the way I did it. I sort of know where we were going for this, and I was glad somebody read it, somebody finally talked to over there, and we, sort of got a system going here. So that's fine. Yeah, I mean, all the modifications so far, that's great. I like the idea of the recommendation, because that'll give us some maybe leadway and maybe some discussion over there as to what's going to happen.
So in regards to Representative Becker's question, would it be better to keep it is recommended or to take out BOE?
Ultimately, the BOE's got to be involved in this.
Okay.
That's why I would rather see the BOE in it.
Okay.
Okay.
Representative Becker.
But
Thank you.
Because we cannot set BOE policy,
Right.
so this would really kind of be in conflict if we were to do that by state statute. Just really my question is, would you rather it be it's recommended, or would you rather it be town policy that this can't be done? If you want the leeway, great, and we leave it at that. If you need something to go to BOE and go, you need to give me an answer because town policy says I can't do this, then I would offer up, asking Representative Bateson to make a friendly and move it to that.
Do you have
So
a
that was-
preference?
I defer to you guys.
I would like to have it recommended because ultimately the registrars and the BOE have always been figuring this out.
Okay.
I would just rather have them more honestly figure it out with us instead of saying we'll get around to it and then they don't.
All right.
Okay. Then I'm all set. Thank you.
Any other comments on the amendment? Any other comments from the public on the amendment? Okay, so right now before us are three little amendments or pieces of the amendment. One is under section 4-B to write section 8 instead of section 7. That is one. Actually, there's only three things total. Second is on section 10A to strike the words shall be the town/BOE policy and replace it with it is recommended, right? Okay. Third is, and most importantly, to add the period to the hours, capitalize the T in section 10B. I appreciate specialists in grammar, so that was a nice comment, Ann. Okay, that is the motion on the table. Those who are in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, so now we're back with the amended version of this election plan. Is there any comment on the new amended version? Is there any comment from the public on the new amended version? We are now going to vote. All those in favor of the new Town of Fairfield Emergency Contingency Plan for Elections, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item passes. Thank you. And finally, we go to item number 11. Consider and act upon any other matters presented to said meeting in which may be properly acted upon the rules of the representative town meeting. Next meeting will be held on April 22nd. May I have a motion to adjourn? Representative Mirabile, second. Representative Ryan. All abstentions. Where's Sunman? Not here. No abstentions? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. No, hey.